Good evening. City of Lamarque City Council regular agenda of July 10th, 2023. Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Lamarque, Texas will conduct a regular meeting on July 10th, 2023, beginning at 6 p.m. Council chambers at 1109B Bayou Road, Lamarque, Texas, as well as via video conference hosted through Zoom. In accordance with section 551.127 of the Texas Local Government Code, the presiding officer and the quorum of the Lamarque City Council intend to be and will physically be present at 1109B Bayou Road, Lamarque, Texas. This location will be open to the public and the meeting will be broadcast at this location on channel 16 and via YouTube. The council will meet for the purpose of considering the following agenda. The meeting has been called to order. Certainly let the record reflect that all council members are present at this time. Mrs. Kiara Nance, who's our city clerk, is out sick this evening. We'll move past the roll call to item 3, invocation and pledge. And I'd like to ask Councilwoman Kimberly Yancey to lead us in our invocation, as well as Council Member James Ross to lead us in our pledge.
Dear God, today we come to you, God, thanking you for our life and our liberty, God. We thank you that we were able to walk in and see one another, God. We thank you for our city. We thank you for our nation. We thank you for freedom, God. We pray now that you would give us what we need to make the right decisions and wise decisions. As Solomon asks, we pray for wisdom. Lord, we pray for cooperation. We pray for a unity within our city that we've never seen before. We thank you for all of our officers. We thank you for our leaders, our staff, and the people that call Lamarque home. Protect our city. We know we're going into a time of hurricanes and heat waves, and we pray, God, that you will help us to see what we need so that we can be able to meet the need of our residents. We love you, and we pray this in your son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 calls for a presentation for Chosen Ones Outreach Ministries. If you are a member or associated with, very good. If you are a member of or associated with Chosen Ones Outreach Ministry, you may approach the podium to your right and to my left at this time. Give us your name. Certainly, you may commence your presentation.
How you doing, everyone? Good evening. I'm Cameron Martin, Director of Outreach Services of the Chosen Ones Enrichment Center. Today, I am bringing awareness to an organization that profoundly impacts individuals within our community. This spiritual-based program has a powerful vision to help individuals reach their goals and become positive and productive contributors to our community. The Chosen Ones Enrichment Center is committed to addressing pressing needs in our community. We are an organization entrusted with the policy, planning, and coordination with the City of Lamarque to respond to community needs. We offer a wide range of services that encompass homeless prevention, rapid rehousing, emergency housing, transitional housing, emergency food distribution, and referrals for those fleeing from domestic violence. Our mission is clear: to provide services that enhance the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being of our community. Through direct peer support, access to resources, and community development, we empower individuals to break free from the cycle of homelessness and poverty, because one can only imagine the mental effects and physical effects of homelessness to families, let alone children. One vital aspect of our work is the Emergency Assistance Response Unit. This unit provides a crucial aid to families and individuals who have been displaced or made homeless due to a variety of crises, such as hurricanes, floods, fires, gas explosions, building collapses, and inadequate housing. The Chosen Ones offer temporary shelter as supplement to Red Cross Disasters Aid. We evaluate each customer's needs within 30 days of enrollment and continuously modify services as planned. We recognize the importance of collaboration and cooperation with other service providers and local planning groups. We understand that a comprehensive service system is necessary to meet the diverse needs of our community effectively. By working together, the chosen ones ensure that the services are delivered continuously, timely, and in a coordinated manner. And now I will pass the mic to my colleague.
Hello, my name is William Parker. I'm the Director of Operations for the Chosen Ones Outreach, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about us. So we understand the importance of community involvement for the individuals that we serve, and we aim to increase the ability for individuals to continue helping themselves long after our program is come and gone. By fostering community connections, we enable individuals to develop skills to become independent and live in a community that prospers. In addition to emergency assistance response and outreach efforts, we provide a range of services to address the immediate needs of our community. We have offered assistance with back mortgage, rent payments, utility bills, property taxes, and insurance, as well as access to job training, referrals, emergency food pantries, senior boxes, and referrals to basic health care. Over the last 3 years, we have served over 1,000 renters, totaling $1.7 million, and 400 families in this last year facing foreclosure, totaling out $3.6 million. By coming together, the city of Lamarque will not only be the gateway of the Gulf, but also one to personal growth and community development. Thank you for your attention, and may we all be inspired to make a difference in the lives of those in need. Thank you.
Thank you, sirs.
Thank you.
Council, do we have any questions for the Chosen Ones group this evening? Chosen Ones Outreach.
Mayor, I just wanted to also introduce the Executive Director.
Reverend Lawson, I'm the Executive Director and founder of the Chosen Ones Outreach Ministry. I was also the Gulf Coast Homeless Coalition President for 6 years.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions?
No, I would just like to say, I remember meeting you guys for Stop the Violence and you all came. And we shared it on Talk of Lamarque. We've heard some very good things about what you all are doing and the people that you utilize in getting the information out. So I would love to be a resource for District A to let people know about when they need rent assistance, back mortgage assistance, and all of that. So I look forward to see what this partnership will do.
And I just want to say one thing, when we did the research, y'all have 500 people that owe back taxes. So if we get them to us, we can wipe that clean.
And you all have been funded with a federal grant? Is that what you were saying? Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, you brought this group to us this evening. Certainly want to allow you to comment.
Well, first of all, when this comes up for a vote, I'll be declaring a conflict because I have a long relationship with Reverend Lawson back from Hurricane Ike, collaborated closely with the Red Cross. He's originally from Chicago/Philadelphia, New York. I'm from New York. I keep forgetting the accent, New York. And so I'm just grateful for all the assistance he's provided. And but they have been keeping, and I know this for a fact because talking with some of the clients on the verge of foreclosure at the courthouse, the money's come through in terms of preventing that family from losing their homes, not only here locally, but in Brazoria County as well. They operate in various parts of the state, 12 counties. That's it. Thank you. So thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Mr. Lawson, thank you and your group for bringing us this presentation today. Certainly it educated us. We look forward to what the council has to say as it relates to memorandum of understanding. Item 5, citizens participation, limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments from the public will be heard at this time. Any person with city-related business who signed up may speak to council, limited to 3 minutes. Wishing to speak, you may give the mayor or the presiding officer your full legal name, your address, and the item you wish to speak about. Compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the city may not deliberate on comments. Personal attacks will not be allowed, and personnel matters should be addressed to the city manager during normal business hours. Press *6 to mute or unmute if you're participating via telephone. Press the unmute button if you are attending via Zoom on a smartphone, tablet, or computer. If you are visiting with us in person, you may approach the podium to my left and to your right, and you will be heard. Kyle, are there any persons online wishing to speak?
Nobody's indicated.
Are there any persons online wishing to speak? You may unmute yourself at this time. We'll try one more time. Any persons online wishing to speak, you may unmute yourself at this time. Hearing and seeing none, we'll move to those that are here with us physically. Mr. James Osteen. Welcome, James. Name and address as always. For the
Thank
record.
you. James Osteen, 2012, Giordano. I want to start out by, on the 26th, the council passed the ordinance 2023-0004. That was the budget for the expenditures at the end of the fiscal year. The issue I got here is, right now, that's not a good ordinance. And the reason why it's not a good ordinance, the final passage has never been publicized in a newspaper. I don't know if y'all are aware of that, and it's my opinion, you're gonna have to do whole ordinance over, because you have 10 days to publish. It's started by charter. And I know what happened. It was published after the first reading, like it's supposed to. And best I could figure out here is when it was published after the 26th meeting, someone put the same publication in it was for the first reading. So you don't have no second final passage reading. And today will be the 14th day that it's not in there. So I'm opinion y'all gonna have to redo that. Now, Mayor, I talked to Ms. Nance today, and she said she signed that ordinance and you signed it.
Mhm.
Well, when you signed it, you're saying that it was the final passage was publicized. So someone's not got your back.
Yep.
All right, that's all on that, but I'd like for Gus to look at that and see how y'all gonna rectify that. The second thing I've got is this Republic Services wants to do a 90-day trial period on this wastewater discharge permit. If y'all remember last year at the budget meetings, we had a letter where we violated the permit. If y'all remember that?
Yeah.
And that copper was in a dangerous area for the park down here, all that water. What? I'm asking y'all not to do this 90-day permit. You know, my wife was kayaking during that time, and I was down there fishing, and kids down there crabbing, and it had too much copper in there. Probably the only reason we didn't get any lawsuits is nobody really knew about it. But we don't need to fool with this Republic dumping 50,000 gallons a day in our sewer system to be treated. In 2016 agreement, that's what I'm looking at here. I guess that's what they want to go by. It was about 4 cents a gallon. Yeah, I think it comes around 700,000, a bit more a year that we would get from that. Don't put money ahead of your kids and your family's health down there that play in that water, fish in it, eat the crabs out of it. You know, we don't need to fool with that. So I think you ought to really think hard about it. And then the last one
You got
is on this blower.
one, give me one statement on that one, James, because you're out of time, but you can give me a statement on the last.
I'm sorry.
I say your 3 minutes are up. I say,
Okay.
but I'll let you go ahead and give me one statement on the last.
Okay, it's on the wastewater treatment plant blower replacement.
Yes, sir.
Rick's got all the prices on here, but when you get to the second page, the impact over 5 years plus installation expenses is $107,100, and the expenses for the installation is $50,000 estimate. But on the front page, he also says there's a $25,000 fee for existing equipment controls. So is it gonna be 107,050 or is it gonna be 107,050 and 25? It's not straight.
Yes, sir.
You might want to get that straight before you vote on it.
Yes, sir.
Thank y'all for your time and the extra time.
Thank you, James. Rashard Loftus. Welcome, Rashard. Name and address as always for the record.
Good afternoon, Rashard Loftus, 309 Johnson Street. I'm here for two reasons. One, the Keep Lamar Beautiful Commission, we attended the Keep Texas Beautiful conference a week or so ago, 2 weeks. And I want to thank my committee members, Lindsay Gonzalez, Kathy Heron Keith, Mr. Pettyjohn, and Ashley Stewart for attending with us. Also, I want to thank the city manager for showing up and attending some sessions with us as well. We learned a lot of good stuff this year as well as last year, and we're hoping to bring those things back to the city to implement some of those things we got from other cities and individuals that were there. So we're asking for council support if we bring anything to you all to, help us with that. And second off, my next thing is code enforcement. I came a couple meetings back and I spoke about the code enforcement needing more help. I see that is happening. We got a new guy, maybe two, I believe. But I have an issue with how certain things are being put out to the public or not. So I've been turning in some violations that I've been noticing. There's a lot of them. City manager rode around and put out some things that he saw. So I've put out some requests on the request tracker. Well, turns out that some of these things that I've noticed have already been turned in. So there's no way that the public knows that this is happening, that the code enforcement knows about it. So we wasting time. And Gus and Kim and the mayor, y'all know what I've put out there as a suggestion. I think we should really take a look at that suggestion so the community will know that the city is aware of these violations. Otherwise, we're getting people like myself turning these things in, and then I get an email back, oh, we already know about it. Well, that's a waste of code enforcement's time. It's a waste of the citizens' time when they turning it in. So I think we need to do a better job of that, and it can be done. We just have to do it, figure out a way to do it. There's been some suggestions, a suggestion, and if it don't work, it don't work, but we should at least try it. Because if you don't try it, then you never know if it's gonna work or not. So let's just do a better job of communicating to the public that we know about these violations. And when we know about them, let's do something about it instead of, dragging our feet in some cases. And I'm not saying that's all the time, but
Finish your statement. Ms.
you
Loftus.
know, we need to do a better job.
Thank you, Ms. Loftus. Item 6, minutes. Regular city council minutes of June 26, 2023. Regular city council minutes of June 12th, 2023. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
The second,
Second.
are there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
If I may, Mayor, if Councilmember Carlson could give his address for the purpose of the minutes.
Very good, very good.
I was gonna wait for that.
Let's, for the record, Michael, Kiara, it wasn't here to do roll call, but for the record, would you give your address, please?
Yes, sir. It's 208 Washington Street, Mosier, Oregon.
Thank you, sir. Is that good, Gus?
That's perfect.
Thank you. 7, ordinances. Discussion and possible action regarding approving 7-1 ordinance number letter O-2023-0005, establishing and implementing a program to charge mitigation rates for the deployment of emergency and non-emergency services by the fire department for services provided, rendered for the City of Lamarque Fire Department. Caesar, excuse me.
Certainly. Chief, would you like to join us on this one? This item is available to you, something we discussed that we would be doing later in the fiscal year. We wanted to wait till about halfway to 3/4 way through the year. This would be the first reading of this item. The mitigation rates basically would be entitled to both emergency and non-emergency services through our fire department. And I have Chief Merriman here if you have any questions specific to this item that you would like to have addressed. All the backup is also included within your packages.
Any questions for Chief Merriman?
Just one. So the mitigate on section 6 of the actual ordinance, it says the mitigation rates listed in Exhibit A will increase by 1.5% annually or based on the annual percentage increase in consumer price index as developed by the Bureau of Labor Statistics of the U.S. Department of Labor, whichever is more. The rates adjustments will occur on the anniversary date of the ordinance resolution to keep the fire department's cost recovery program in conformity with the increasing operating expense. Is there any way possible that we can somehow figure out just a regular annual percentage rate over the next 5 years instead of a fluctuating chance of it? It could be 1.5%, but the CPI is 3%, so we're going to go to 3% instead. Could we just cut it in half and say 2% annual rate for the next 5 years?
We could, so that's designed to go up with inflation.
Right.
So if we say 2% and inflation jumps like it did last year, 9%, we're behind the 8 ball on. That was why we put it in that way. And a little bit of the backstory. So we used to do fire billing. Revenue Rescue was our company. They went out of business in 2015, and nobody has done fire billing since 2015. So when we went out for RFP for billing, I searched for a company. The requisite for the request for proposal was a company that did EMS and fire billing. Fire billing got turned on, or the EMS billing got turned on in December. Once we worked through offboarding the old company, onboarding the new one, we're now ready to onboard the new company. The same company does both of them. One is called Emergicon. Their subsidiary is Emergent Fire. Those guys are professionals at billing. The fire service billing has been in service since 8 years, since Revenue Rescue went out of business. They've got roughly 51 clients inside the state of Texas. And our goal is not to bill the citizens for fire service. If you have car insurance, you have homeowners insurance, anything that we do that. Unlike medical billing, I don't have to send the citizens a bill to maintain my Medicare, Medicaid license. We will bill insurances only. Citizens get no bills for that. Insurance companies last year put out roughly $1 million to fire services for billing. I'd like to collect some of that for the city of Lamarque. We did some studies, and a city comparable to our size, not our call volume, because a city our size doesn't run the number of calls we run. We're blowing them out of the water when it comes to call volume because of various things. I mean, they collected anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000 last year in fire billing alone. That's just from the insurance companies. Citizens that don't live in the city of Lamarque, don't pay taxes in the city of Lamarque, they will get a bill for fire services, and they will get a bill based on the current addendum. And as inflation goes up each year, this gives us the ability to just make it go up as the inflation goes up, as opposed to having to come back to council for a new resolution every year on our schedule of fees, which is a very daunting task when it comes to setting schedules of fees. The one thing that we did note, I had a conversation with Mr. Holstein, and he pointed out to me that in the terms in the fire billing, it references the EMS billing contract, which is 1 year with subsequent automatic renewals. But that verbiage from the EMS billing contract isn't in this one. So if y'all approved it, I would like to see y'all amend this, that it holds the same verbiage, not just references to contracts. That way, if somebody looks at one contract, that verbiage is there. And I overlooked it. We both myself and Gus went through it, and I just missed the fact that it referenced that old contract, because I knew the terms of that contract already. So it didn't really click to me until Mr. Osteen pointed out that what's that contract, what's the terms on it? I'm like, nobody else knows that either. So I'd like to have us amend this one to put that verbiage in there.
So my next question would be then, this is the same company we're using for EMS billing?
Yes, sir.
So we are already on a 30-day schedule with them with the EMS billing?
Yes, sir. And our billing cycle, we now get our bills email, so they don't get mailed to us. There's no delay in it. It gets put in and cycled through.
Right to that. Perfect. Thank you.
I have some follow-up.
Yes, sir.
First, your statement that residents or those persons receiving the benefit of the services would never get billed is inconsistent with section 2 of this, which says in some circumstances, the responsible parties will be billed directly. So let's be clear about that.
That is for out of district residents.
Okay, so you need clarity there to specify out of district.
Fair enough.
Okay,
I mean, we can,
not residents of the city of Lamarque. Because we never bill for fire services to residents of the to residents of Lamarque. Is that accurate?
that is correct.
Okay,
We only build insurance companies that pay out for the services that are rendered.
so what you're saying, just in plain English, insurance companies have a relationship with municipal fire departments, or period, municipal fire departments in general, that they will reimburse the city, the fire department, for fire calls if they have an insured.
Correct.
Okay, so if I have no insurance on my own,
You don't get a bill.
there's not a bill.
Correct.
All right.
But that's written in there so that if an out of district person, if we respond to a call on 45 for a wreck, a car fire, and it's not somebody that lives in our town that pays taxes to our city, we send them a bill.
And Chief, let me ask you. So you mentioned that you mentioned this to me on our trip to Fort Worth, that our number of calls for EMS have substantially gone up.
EMS and fire.
And fire have substantially gone up. And my question, and I don't know if you can answer it now or later or come back, but to what extent has the TxDOT construction on I-45 impacted our calls?
I don't have an exact number for you, but it has made a significant impact, because we have started, since our officers have started getting, vehicles getting wrecked and officers getting hit, we've started doing traffic control for stalled vehicles, for anybody on the freeway, that anytime an officer could be a danger, we will put a fire truck to protect the citizen and the officers while they get a tow truck out there. It's common practice now, as it's called a blocker unit.
And I want to remind the city manager, he may or may not have been here, but we've had a presentation by TxDOT before. During that presentation, we were promised quarterly reports. We've not received those quarterly reports in terms of the construction, and it gives us an opportunity to also dig into the funds that TxDOT has, which are substantial, to those items where we're impacted by their work. And that includes the flooding that occurs because of their construction along the frontage roads.
Yes, sir.
Which people call us about, and that's TxDOT's responsibility. What was the other thing? And the same goes for the EMS services. If we run a call outside of the city limits, we're building that party.
If they are not a citizen of our city. If one of our ambulances responds to Texas City, and it just so happens that we pick up one of our residents,
Right.
we send them a bill, because Medicare, Medicaid says we have to send a bill out.
Right.
We do not pursue that bill. There's a box in the report that says in district, out of district. If the box out of district is checked, we send the bill, and then we send it to collections. If they are not a resident, a taxpaying citizen of our city.
And I guess that's a follow-up question to me, just in accounting. When we have in a for-profit scenario, that's considered bad debt. We get to write off that in a for-profit scenario. How does
And
that happen for the city? Or do we have any benefit
well, and
on that side?
Mayor Pro
Or is there
Tem,
a pool of dollars that we can go to, like in healthcare?
so Mayor Pro Tem, Emergicon also helps cities with what's called the Texas Ambulance Supplemental Payment Program,
Mm,
which will help us get back some of those bad debt numbers.
Okay.
So and that was another qualifying part of the RFP was the EMS billing company had to participate and help us collect some of that money that's on the table out there.
Sorry. Thank you, Chief.
Anyone else?
Councilman Carlson. I think he has his hand raised.
Michael, did you have your hand raised?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Michael.
Couple questions. Chief, what happens if you submit to an insurance company and they don't pay? What's the repercussion of that?
Well, we don't send those bills to our citizens, period.
Well, no, if they're out of state, out of district.
Then we send the bill to the citizen that's not one of our citizens.
Right, but what if the insurance company doesn't pay? Is there a repercussion for that?
Same repercussion that they would get for an EMS bill, that they would get the bill and they would be sent to collections.
Well, what if the insurance company says it's not just? Is that the fight between that company and the insurance?
Correct. That's what we're paying this company to do the fight. The insurance.
Okay, and what if it becomes a no bill? Even though they're out of state or out of district?
Correct. Then I would say it's probably a write-off, but I will be honest with you, we haven't collected a single dime for fire service since 2015. Anything we can put in the coffers is a bonus.
So, okay, that was the only question. And like Mayor Pro Tem said, I would recommend an amendment. Because we don't charge our residents. It's not the right choice. Thank you.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Jim.
I do have a follow-up. So I want to be clear that this is also following up on Councilman Carlson question. If a resident of the city of Lamarque will never get a bill for EMS services, is that yes or no?
They have to get a bill.
They have to get a bill.
They do not have, our Medicare, Medicaid license says we have to bill everybody.
All
Or
right.
we are in jeopardy of losing our Medicare, Medicaid license, and we can't bill anybody.
So the city of League City will send out bills, because I happen to know the director of the services there, and Dr. LaGuardia. And however, League City also has a policy that is based upon income. And if you cannot afford the bill, you fill out the paperwork and indicate there. That's how Medicare works as well too. It's based upon income. And do we have such a program in place?
No, sir. We take if you're a citizen of the city, we take the amount of money that your insurance pays, and that is all we take.
Well, I suggest, this is just me, and for council to consider, but I would hope that we, as a community, follow through on what other communities do and have an adjustment available based upon income.
Then I would have to send you a bill and fight you for the bill, even if it's an adjustment.
Say that again?
If I adjusted the bill based on your income, you're still going to get a bill. Now I have to go after you for that bill. Because it's adjusted,
Because now it's based on income.
because it's based on income. Now I have to go after you for it.
So now we would be billing for fire fees.
Then we would be billing we would be billing our citizens for EMS.
Well, but you're just saying that we do it anyway.
We send it to
We
the
send
insurance
people to
company.
for collections.
We do
Makes a
not send you
difference.
to collections.
You're saying you don't send people
We
to
do not send
collections.
people to collections. We send you a bill If you can't pay that bill, we do not send you to collections if you are a resident of this town.
So.
That's
so-
actually what started me on the path to finding a new EMS company, was because the old one sent a few of our citizens to collections.
Okay, so citizens may receive a bill and probably do get a bill.
Mhm.
But they shouldn't be worried about it because if they can't afford to pay it, there's not going to be any collections.
Correct,
Occurring.
because they are taxpayers of
All
this
right,
city.
well, I like that even better.
They should refer it to their insurance agency to handle them. We'll go. from
Well,
there.
that, I
And
mean, in my
that happens
case,
all the
that's
time.
what I
Believe it or
do.
not, our office gets phone calls and we handle that on the backside all the time.
Yes, yeah. Biggest challenge in this country is medical debt. People go bankrupt because of that.
And for fire billing purposes, all I want to do is send a bill to the insurance companies. And whatever dollars they give us is money in the coffers that we didn't have last year.
Thank you.
Chief, let's be clear here. We're speaking specifically about billing for fire services.
Correct. The billing, the EMS billing sidetrack, we've been doing
It's ongoing.
ongoing, has been since we took over EMS in 2007, 2006,
Somewhere in.
somewhere around there.
Essentially, the issue is that if we were to tell the truth, public safety is about 70% of budgets nowadays for municipalities.
The
And
big three, police, fire, and public works, eat up 90 cents out of a dollar.
right,
Or 95 cents out of a dollar.
so we're looking at least 70% of every municipal budget. And this especially, and in particularly, our fire services, our emergency medical services can only be funded, up until this point, could only be funded by our maintenance and operations, our sales tax and our property taxes. We realize here in this city and in many cities, we want to move away from the assessment of property tax. We have to find ways to be able to then finance our budget. And so this is one of those ways to pass on those expenditures to folks that may not necessarily be taxpayers of our city. This is one of the ways that we're trying to alleviate property tax. The problem with this way is that your best estimate suggests that we can only generate $50,000 to $100,000 in this type of assessment. But your budget is how much?
My current budget
Current
is
budget.
$3.2 million.
And so we want to put that into context. I am for this, but I want to give our community an idea of what we are talking about here. We're trying to limit property tax assessment, but this is a small drop in the bucket to what we're trying to do. And I just wanted to educate our citizens as it relates to what we're trying to do here in this moment, as it relates to what you are asking us to
Right.
move forward with.
I don't believe as a fire department, I can operate in the black. My equipment is too expensive. My personnel is my cost. I can't operate in the black, but if I can lessen the burden on the taxpayers by making these small changes, then that's why we're standing here today, is because I'm trying to lessen the burden on the taxpayers for the $3.2 million that we currently use from previous budget. And regulations, NFPA, IFCs, they're just, equipment's too expensive, safety gear's too expensive. We can't operate in the black in this city. I don't know of a city anywhere that a fire department operates in the black. By that, I mean, brings in more than they spend. And we're just, our equipment and our safety gear, it's just all too expensive it's a burden on the taxpayers. And this is one way to lessen that. Do I expect to lessen it by a whole lot? No, sir. But at this point, I feel like every little bit helps us in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Sure. Thank you for that, Chief. Any further questions or comments? There was an amendment, I believe, Mayor Pro Tem, that you recommended that we add to this ordinance. Do you remember?
Yes, that was section 2. a claim shall be filed to the responsible parties through their insurance carrier. In some circumstances, and maybe the amendment is where the responsible party lives outside the city limits, they will be billed directly. Would that be accurate to say?
They would receive the bill for any unpaid portion from their insurance. But yes, what,
Your amendment would be accurate. Mayor Pro Tem.
Gus, are you getting? Okay. You want to
and
read it?
then the other amendment that I would request that y'all is to take the terms of service from, since this one says it runs concurrent with the EMS contract, I would like that we put those terms of service in this one as well. That way, if somebody looks at the fire billing contract and they go, well, I don't know what that is. Let's just, rather than have to go look up the EMS billing contract, let's put the terms of service in both of them, which is the 1 year with the automatic renewals.
And if I could remind us that this is a ordinance, we did an ordinance because it is involving a fee. And this tonight you're listing as first reading, so we'll have to bring this back to you as a second reading as
So
well.
we have two ordinances, two potential amendments to the ordinance that we're gonna need someone to sponsor your amendment. But first, Gus, do we need to, is Mayor Pro Tem's amendment, is it friendly? Would it stop us from passing this ordinance on the first reading tonight?
On first reading, no, Mayor. The council can may make amendments and then it would come back.
Okay. So let's take Mayor Pro Tem's amendment first. I assume you made a motion to make this, let's back up. Have we had a motion to approve this ordinance?
I don't believe so.
Okay, let's entertain a motion to approve this ordinance.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, now we can entertain Mayor Pro Tem's amendment. And are you making that motion?
A motion to amend the main motion, I guess.
Yes. Would you read that back for us, Gus?
The amendment that the Mayor Pro Tem is proposing is to amend section 2 to say that the city will only send the bills to non-residents. While as residents, the bills will be sent directly to the insurance carrier, if any.
Is there a second to that amendment?
I'll second that amendment.
Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote on the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The amendment has been added. The fire chief is- Thank you, Michael. The fire chief has also recommended a second additional amendment. And say that for us one more time for Gus.
So what I would like for us to do is, so this current contract says, let me pull up the exact verbiage here. This addendum runs in concurrence to the Specialized Professional Ambulance Billing Services Agreement. I'd like to take that out and actually put when you go into the ambulance billing agreement, it tells you what the terms are. I would like to put those here, so it makes it easier and more transparent for anybody to take a look at. That way they don't have to go back and look for the second one, because as this stands right now, if somebody was to come take a look at it, they got to look for the other one. So I want to take the terms.
An entire set of terms,
Yes.
Gus.
I got it.
Do we know what those terms are?
Yeah, I'm just going to copy when council adopted the EMS billing, that contract, I'm going to pull y'all's minutes from that and I'm going to copy and paste those in.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
That's-
Does that answer your question, Mayor?
It does answer the question, but it does not give us a chance to put our eyeballs on the language here tonight, and that's going to be problematic for us as a council.
Understandable.
So how do you suggest we move forward? Because I'm not comfortable. I don't know. There are 4 other folks that may be comfortable, but I'm not comfortable with. Nothing against you, Chief. I respect you and I agree with what you're saying, but as far as not being able to see the language, that's.
Sure. So, I
We
would
could make a
think,
few copies of it right now. I have it highlighted if you would like it.
And if not, Mayor, we have no problem bringing this back if we need to bring it
I
back for
think
first
we-
reading at the next meeting and then the second.
Let,
reading.
I would say, just me as one vote, I would say that would be the best. Because there's one thing to add a friendly amendment about who gets a bill. There's something entirely different to add an entire agreement,
Section.
right? That's,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's an issue. So, Gus, do you suggest that we continue to act on this tonight, or do you suggest that we back out and table the whole thing?
My suggestion would then be, for efficiency purposes, be tabling the whole thing if you're anticipating a subsequent amendment in the future, because it sounds like you are.
Absolutely. All right, Mr. Ross, would you please take back your your second to the amendment?
I take back my second to the amendment.
And now, Mayor Pro Tem, would you please
Well, hold on.
Which amendment? Mine? or-
your amendment, his
Oh.
amendment, yeah.
All right,
No one ever made a motion on the chief's amendment.
okay.
And so
That
we're
was merely
speaking,
my suggestion.
it was his
to
suggestion. And
make the
before we got
contract
a
legal.
sponsor, we found out that that's probably not what we wanted.
Whatever works.
Right. So back out of your motion
All right.
and would you please make a motion to table?
I'm hereby withdraw my amendment and I move that we table this action on this item.
Is there a second on the table?
Second.
There's no discussion on the table. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 7.2.
Mayor, just
Go ahead,
a
Jeff.
question before, when we bring this back, will the mitigation rates under section 6, are those same rates applicable under the previous ordinance that was passed on the EMS services? Or is that? this is
The EMS
additional?
services, they're two separate ordinances. The EMS, the rates are for EMS. These in here are only for fire billing.
And that's why I'm asking, are those mitigation rates, is that even addressed in the first ordinance?
Yes, we went with their same mitigation rates for EMS billing.
All right. So that's where the inconsistency would, I believe, lie. We'd have to clarify that. If we're attaching it to this,
Well, if I may, the city signed a contract with Emergicon LLC back in December.
December 15th of 22. Actually, it went live December 15th of 2022.
Okay.
It was signed,
What Emergifire, which I understand is a subsidiary of Emergicon, sent over is an addendum to the Emergicon contract that the city signed in December of 2022, adding additional services, specifically fire billing. What is not before the council tonight is, for y'all's review, is what that Emergicon contract is. You've already signed it, but this is just amending those services, but it is not before you tonight. So if you want us to bring it to you, that is my suggestion, would be a table.
and we are, but that's just
Yeah.
my question.
Sure.
I'll cover with it later.
Yeah, sorry if I misunderstood.
Yeah. All right, let's move now to item 7.2, ordinance number letter O-2023-0006, issuing a conditional use permit for Hunt Energy Network Battery Storage Facility. Are there representatives from Hunt Industry here with us tonight?
Yes, Mayor, there's some folks here. Also, we've had several departments who have addressed this. Chief, if you could join us again, also Gus. A meeting was held after the last time that we had this discussion, that we brought it forward to you to address some of the concerns. And at this time, I'd like for those concerns to be addressed. Chief, if you could join Gus, you as well. Kathleen, I know you were part of the meeting, and the folks from Hunt are here as well to answer any specific.
If you are from
questions.
Hunt, you may approach.
Thomas Alt with Hunt Energy Network,
Spell your last name, Tom.
AULT.
AULT. Did you want to update us on, I know there were a lot of questions last time you were before us.
Yeah, just to summarize what was previously said, we met with staff, we met with Kathleen Verstappen, Chief Merriman, Mr. Nebel, Mr. Garcia, and Deputy Briggs, and discussed the ERP program, specifically the emergency response program, the safety specifics of the site, went into detail. It was about an hour and a half, hour 15 discussion of all the specifics of the site. It was a pretty detailed discussion, but we wanted to articulate all of the safety features and the specifics of the site. I was asked to be here for any additional questions, but I believe Chief and folks have some other comments as well to
Sure.
remark on.
Cesar, did you want to?
If we could go first with Chief Merriman, and then if we could follow up with Gus, and if there's any other pointed items to discuss.
So after giving y'all my previous concerns with lithium ion battery storage, I've had an opportunity to talk to these gentlemen. They sat down with us. We went over a whole lot of things. They brought us an emergency response plan. That is their typical one. Generally during the pre-development stage is when we will fine tune that to fit our city. These gentlemen have come to us with their ERP is going to be adjusted to fit us. They're going to come in, do some in-house training with our guys on their site specific. The other thing that we did discuss was their safety measures. The battery storage boxes are basically impact resistant and designed to take something to hit them. They also have their own self-contained cooling systems. Their safety measures shut their systems down long before the battery terminals start to do what's called a thermal degradation. And then even after that, it would be a thermal runaway. Their safety mechanisms shut that down long before it gets to those temperatures. The way it was explained to me is once the temperature inside gets above 90 degrees, they start to shut themselves down so that they don't get to the point of thermal degradation, which is somewhere around 120 degrees. And then thermal runaway starts at like 180. So their safety mechanisms, their systems are monitored 24/7. They will notify us. Their driveway in will hold our fire trucks. They're putting Knox boxes on everything, manual shutoffs for our fire department guys. They're going to come out and train them. As far as the system itself, I'm confident the safety measures will protect all of us. As far as what Gus and Mayor Pro Tem, that's not my lane, but I'm pretty confident that the safety measures are that everything that's exhausted out of those is filtered. So it comes, they're pretty self-contained and they don't require a whole lot of maintenance. And we're going to get plenty of training on how to mitigate any emergency at that facility.
Yes.
I was also on that call. I heard everything. I'm going to defer to council any legal questions you may have. One thing I did ask though, it does sound like this is, these systems are prevalent across the state, but they're also in Galveston County. Lamarque will not be the first city in the state or in this county with this system. Multiple of our sister cities either have them already or are planned for them. And Mr. Alt can speak more specifically to those.
Would you give us the other cities that this would be?
Yes, sir. Texas City has an active site that's been operating over a year. I think it's around two and a half years. And then there's another plant in Texas City that's under permitting right now that just got approved for, I don't want to call it a zoning permit, but I think it was a building permit was approved. So there are, those are the two that I'm most intimately familiar with. There are a couple others in South Texas, but I don't know the specific locations. It's not something that's published on the locations, but I'm intimately familiar with those.
Thank you. Okay, council, do we have any questions for any of these folks as well as Mrs. Van Sterven at this time?
I have a question there.
Go ahead, Michael.
Now, refresh my memory. Does that location have a sprinkler system or a halon system, some to protect itself if it catches fire?
That's for any one of you. I assume that would be for you.
We have a
Mr.
map that was published. There's not an active sprinkler system. There's a fire hydrant approximately 80 foot from where the site would be. Approximate. We have a map that we've disclosed to staff that shows the exact location. It's not located on, or it's not identified on this map, but if you look at the northeast corner of the red polygon there, It's about, it's in between there and the freeway.
So if some were to impinge upon those batteries, even though they've shut themselves down, you still have that chemical component. So if some flame impingement gets upon those batteries, it's going to eventually release. So you have no sprinkler system, no halon system, no way to put it out. So
Well,
eventually those batteries are gonna melt down and release the chemicals.
And
I think all new construction is supposed to have one of those, isn't it? And especially if it's dealing with electricity or batteries. I mean, fire sense, that kind of makes sense.
if I may, I'll have to defer to Kathleen and Chief Merriman on the building code issue. Mr. Alt, one of the things he presented to us was some testing that was done on these units and the specific amount of heat that they were subjected to and for how long. And I think he can provide that. That may help assuage some of council's fears of that.
yeah, not
Thank you.
too into detail, but the UL 9540A standards are for testing thermal propagation of a specific battery. These battery cells that we're utilizing have all been through that test and have that certification. It's the UL 9540A. During that testing procedure, the cells are actually specifically heated up to induce a thermal propagation. And so what that test procedure does is look at the various temperatures where that cell is exposed to. And as mentioned earlier, we operate these cells in between about 70 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. At that point in time, when they start to operate over a comfortable limit, the system will start to degrade. Doesn't become corrosive, doesn't become volatile, but the systems will degrade. And so our typical operating procedure is when they hit those temperatures into that 90 degrees, 100 degree Fahrenheit, is that it will actually self-derate. So this is before any kind of corrosive or hazardous event would happen. During the UL 9540 test procedures, the thermal propagation did not start until 82 minutes after being induced at 300 degrees C. So that is the point of the test, is to light the batteries on fire and to see what the thermal propagation characteristics of that cell. These cells are put into a module. One cell is heated up until it lights on fire, and then the results of that thermal propagation is observed. When that cell caught on fire on our particular cell manufacturer, that was after 82 minutes of being exposed to 300 degrees Celsius. One cell next to that cell subsequently caught on fire, and then the system stopped catching on fire. That is the point of the UL 9540A test, is to prevent thermal propagation in the unlikely scenario that you have a thermal propagation event. Our advice is not to put water on these systems because it can become more volatile. There are correct procedures to put water on these systems in the extreme event that they happen. What we're trying to highlight by the UL 9540A test is that those events are highly, highly unlikely with these systems and the protective measures that are in place, not only the proactive, but the O&M as well. That's what we've tried to highlight with staff and gone into great detail on, is showing them the specific characteristics of the system.
Any more questions?
Yes, sir. So I'm the old guy up here, so 60 years here in Lamarque. For so long in this community, just a little history. Lamarque has been that commercial on TV with the cereals and the little kids being pulled a bowl of cereals and they give it to Mikey. Let's let Mikey try it. That's Lamarque's been the Mikey in this area. Let's let everything try to Lamarque. That's number one. Number two, Lamarque is fundamentally a bedroom community. Let Texas City take, if they have another place for this, let them take it. There, that's the community that it was built upon. That was the refineries over there. And then the other, just a simple, basic human reaction is my question is, if I were dealing with you negotiating, my question would be, what's in it for me? But I'm going to change that. And the change is, what's in it for Lamarque? And the answer, as I go through this, is basically nothing. Okay? You're not selling a product that I can tax. So I'm getting what? 0. All right. Number 2, not even the proposed increase in the property value is there, because the legislature apparently just came to a deal on the devaluations on the appraisals, and that's extending to what, interestingly enough, businesses as well. So the evaluations, the appraisals for property, that's illusionary as well too. So basically, what's in it for Lamarque? Nothing. What is in it for Lamarque, if you build this, is we're going to have to increase and bring up our fire department to certain skills. But beyond that, you keep talking about this current technology. Well, I'm looking at the current technology. I'm looking at how the latest lithium storage facilities, battery, that have failed. They failed already. And the Arizona one that caught fire, severely injuring 4 career firefighters that were already trained in dealing with these chemicals. They were severely injured. And because why? It is just new technology. Let Mikey try it. I don't want Lamarque to be the Mikey. I'm tired of that. And therefore, I'm opposed to this.
Would you, well, the younger one on the council, I have done some research and I've talked to some of our other colleagues as well, as far as the battery. I don't agree that Lamarque has been the Mikey. I think we've been overlooked for technology. One of the things, if you look at this entire area, there's nowhere to charge your car if you have an electric car. You have to go all the way to Webster to do that. And we know that young people in our area, they are trying to be more hybrid focused, right? And protect the environment. So they're doing electric cars. We have been overlooked for that. So tell me, what would your technology do? Because he asked a good question, right? Which was, how would this help Lamarque, but how would this help our society as a whole? What this technology that you're bringing? I think we need to kind of go, you did it very well the last meeting. I just kind of want you to repeat it again.
Sure. Yeah. And I can't speak in detail about the appraisal values. And I will say our appraisal values of these properties are around $4 million. And this is going to be a similar site to what we've constructed all across the state. This will be in around our 25th site that's been constructed. So I realize it's new technology to most. There is hundreds of these facilities going around the state right now. They've been in operation for several years. So this is, although somewhat new technology to folks, it has been in Texas and it's growing in Texas. So there are plenty of other counties, plenty of other cities that, yes, are willing to install battery installations. The main perks of these systems, it is a subtle one, but it is grid stability. And I know that everyone, even myself, before I got in this industry 5 years ago, kind of took for granted where our power comes from. But I think as of late and over the last several years, it has become more important to folks in understanding how significant our power is and the impacts that it has on the communities when we don't have power. These batteries, this is a conservative number, can power about 6,000 to 8,000 homes in an hour. And these batteries are made for quick responsing. So if you have a quick jolt in power frequency or power irregularities, whether you lose power, you have bad voltage, you have bad frequency, these batteries are stepping in microseconds. It's a quarter of a second, and these batteries can inject energy. If it's not there, you're relying on generation that's not local. This is generation that is local. Is it, a high magnitude energy source, 100%. And with that, I understand there comes concerns. And that's what we're trying to do is alleviate those concerns by all of the different proactive safety measures that these sites have. So when I say in a nutshell, what these batteries can do is it's grid stability for the local area.
So when you say grid stability, we know what that means, but for the people that are listening, explain to us, what does grid stability mean for the state of Texas? Because Texas, we have our own grid,
Right.
which has known to go out since some of these different things that are happening in our climate. So what would your battery do to supplement Texas's own grid system?
On a short basis, okay, your lights don't dim as much. Okay, that may not seem relevant. Or your power goes off for a few seconds and then something doesn't turn on. Maybe it's something that's important that needs to turn on in your home and your commercial operation. These batteries are quick reacting to where they supplement that energy loss that is in that second to minute period. They're not going to carry our energy grid. I'm not here to tell you they're going to carry your energy grid for days on end. These are made for the frequent trips that can happen around the system. And ERCOT's initiative, the Power Energy Initiative in Texas, is to put these in strategic locations around Texas, around ERCOT, specifically to supplement where you have those grid excursions. I mean, it's a very, very complicated system, but in a nutshell, you're adding grid stability local here. I mean, it's quite a bit of generation for a very low footprint, low impact to the community.
All right, so I'm gonna try to take this from a Submariner battery power perspective to make it just easy for everybody to understand. What you're saying is we have a brownout. These batteries are going to kick back in, help us maintain our refrigerator in some houses for a little while, knowing that a battery is going to die at some point in time, but we're not going to lose everything, just most of it.
In a nutshell, yes, sir. You're preventing the trip. You're preventing the trip.
Thank you.
Ms. Dahl. I thought I heard you say that the life of these batteries wouldn't be able to support us in this community for days at a time. Is that correct?
I said that it would provide.
I thought I heard you say that it wouldn't be.
It wouldn't. Yes, sir.
So how long would it be able to sustain this community?
If I'm not 100% sure how large this
Sure.
community, but conservative number, 8,000 residents. If you take just the average energy consumption, 8,000 residents or 8,000 homes, excuse me, 8,000 homes for roughly an hour.
1 hour?
That's how much energy is stored in the systems. Again, what I would say is these systems are more so suited for frequency and grid intermittent instabilities. You have enough of those, or you have a prolonged instability for 10 seconds, 15 seconds. You could have a plant trip offline. You have one plant trip offline, you might have another. And I know that doesn't, well, what do you care? There's not a plant here. There's plants here regionally that if they trip and you simultaneously have them trip, that's what what we could have as Texans, similar to what we had on Storm Uri. I mean, I don't think what people appreciate about Storm Uri is, one, how close that was going to be to even a more significant event. We lost people during Storm Uri. People died. That's unacceptable. I mean, as Texans in the energy industry, that is 100% unacceptable that people passed away during that event.
Preventable.
And preventable. And what I don't think Texans have fully appreciated, and we're a developer. We don't work for ERCOT. We have to work with ERCOT. So I understand that name can be construed differently around, but we're here to help solve the problem. Are we going to solve everything? Absolutely not. But we're putting enough megawatts, and as developers, we're putting enough megawatts in Texas to help with that grid stability. Whether you like it or not, more and more of Texas energy is coming from renewables. There's 30 gigawatts of 80 gigawatts of load. 30 gigawatts can be supplied by wind today in Texas. We're one of the largest renewable energy generators in the world, not in the country, in the world. With those renewables, solar, wind, and I don't care if you like it or you don't, but with that is going to be becoming more and more drastic intermittencies in the mornings and in the evenings when those renewable energy sources are not available. Thermal, I'm just a fan as thermal as everybody else. That's not what I'm pitching here today. But thermal generation takes a while to build up to the load consumption that Texas is growing at. Unfortunately, right now, Texas is growing faster than the generation can keep up. If we don't, as Texans, solve for this in some way, we're going to continue to have issues, and we're going to continue to have forced requirements to curtail power. We're going to have issues where we are going to lose power, and Storm Uris are not going to be a once every 100 event. They're going to come more and more frequent. And our company and many companies across Texas that are developing these energy storage facilities are trying to solve that problem or help solve that problem. Are we going to do it with a 10 megawatt plant? No, but are we going to do it with hundreds of megawatts? Yes, and that's being solved for right now. Today, there are 4 gigawatts. So that's roughly 400 plants that are the size that we are proposing for the city of Lamarque that are already installed in Texas. So when I say it's not a new technology, there's technology, this technology is out there, it's in Texas. And fortunately, I'm not aware of any major incidences from the surrounding communities or adjacent properties. We went over the track record with staff on our construction. Unfortunately, it's construction. That's where you have our incidents. We have not had any issues with neighboring properties or adjoining neighbors. And we've been in operation since 2019. So,
Mr. Alt, two things. The first thing is you mentioned that there were, I thought you said 400 plans. Other things that I think Mayor Pro Tem alluded to in his comments about, in his opinion, Lamarque being a type of a Marque. Could you be able to help us with names of other cities that may
Absolutely.
appear to be more affluent than the city of Lamarque? Cities that have bought into this type of battery. That might help us to understand whether or not we perhaps are being taken advantage of. Not that you would do that,
sure.
but perhaps our residents have questions.
Sure.
So what are some other more affluent cities?
Well, I mean, Texas City is a neighbor, so that's where kind of my local research in this surrounding area. You have utilities in Austin County that are utilizing batteries. You have counties in DFW County, or DFW Metroplex that are taking advantage of battery storage. You have a lot of folks in West Texas and South Texas. That's where the majority of these battery installations are going. That's a market-driven reason why batteries are there. There's some market indications of why folks are there as developers, but the developers are coming east because there's opportunity east. Every single major metroplex has a battery installation either already active or going into it. These locations are fairly sensitive because they're tied to power infrastructure. We can do our research and get you a list of exactly where.
So let me ask it.
We know.
For purposes of time, let me ask it a different way. Why don't you all, and again, just to try to get to the bottom of some of these questions, why don't you all have a facility in League City or in Friendswood, if you will? Those are just in our county, cities that may appear to be more affluent. So that's where we're trying to get you.
Understood. We target areas where there is significant value in the substation. So there is a need for power generation at those substations. There's a value created economically and incentive economically for developers, including ourselves, to go there. So when we say our screening process, that's number one, is where do we go that there is grid instability that we can provide value, and that's economically incentive. And second is, where can we find substations that have capacity where we can charge the system? That is a study, an interconnection study that's done with the TDSPs. Those are our biggest criteria. And then after that, can we find land that's reasonable? We work closely with TNMP, and they kind of pointed us to this station saying, hey, we have land that you guys are not using. Unfortunately, not every substation is created equal as far as interconnecting a battery, because you got to have enough load available. We've done extensive interconnection studies here. This substation has load available. And when I say load, I'm saying terms. there's charging capacity. We can charge the battery as well. So that's just as important as we have the capability of discharging. We need the capability of charging. That substation specifically has enough charging capacity for our battery. So when it comes to criteria, that's what we're looking at is there land available? And the substation, is there capacity? Most of your urban areas, there's just not land available. Those are some of the most valuable nodes or valuable substations in location. There's just not physically land available because they're in an urbanized area. There's not a half acre or an acre that we can go purchase that land. That land is, I mean, we paid a premium for that land because it's in a premium location in our opinion. And so, but I don't know if that answers your question. Sorry.
It does, to an extent. The second question that I have is in your experience, how much, from a financial standpoint, would you estimate the improvements upon the land to be? In other words, if the land was purchased for 100,000, can we expect the improvements to be assessed at 4 million? I heard you say the 4 million.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate assessment. I mean, that's what we're estimating our properties across the state to come in at is about $4 million with it, plus the improvements, land plus the improvements, roughly 4 million.
Gus, Mayor Pro Tem stated earlier in his comments that there was perhaps actions that were to be taken or perhaps have already been taken by the Texas legislature that would limit our ability to realize some of those fiscal gains from property improvements such as this. Do you have any idea what Mayor Pro Tem would be referring to?
I'm aware that both Speaker Fallon and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick earlier today announced that they had reached an agreement between the House and Senate on property tax relief. That property tax relief is targeted towards ISDs. And the ISD tax rate, which candidly is the largest tax rate everywhere, I believe. The other thing, and I have not seen the bill, but what I would, as Mr. Holmes has alluded to, this will be new construction. It will not be increase in the standard appraisal creep, as people call it, as some people sometimes refer to it as. So, okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I can just briefly, I wanted to also comment. Question I was asked is how will the city benefit or how will it affect the city? Obviously, besides the fact that we do have electrical jolts, some of us get home and we notice that our refrigerator or our stove may be blinking or our microwaves, and obviously that could have issues with our appliances. I want to bring Rick up to discuss very briefly how this would affect some of our facilities. We have had some problems with some of our electrical issues that have affected our actual facilities themselves. And very briefly, Rick, if you could talk to how some of our energy challenges can affect some of our facilities internally.
So as you know, Public Works, we operate well over 1,000 horsepower of motors at any given time, between the wastewater treatment plant, the water facilities, the lift stations. But we're heavily dependent on power. So any type of assistance with power retention or anything is certainly engaging from a public works standpoint. We do have emergency generators at some of our sites, but not at all of our facilities. So any type of loss of power from a public works standpoint can create some havoc. Having certainly some backup power through batteries, which is more and more common, is certainly something to consider.
And certainly just to answer some of the questions for the sake of time that may be asked. Thank you, Rick. Some of the other cities that I'm just quickly looking up, not only in Texas, but much larger cities around San Antonio, Austin, and I'm sorry for not knowing the affluency of some of these cities. But Morro Bay, Saginaw, again, maybe not close, but LaPorte is one that may be close. The bigger cities, including New York and California, have also had some of these, and San Diego. Closer to us, closer to home. I'm just looking very quickly as we're talking to try to get a quick response with some of these, but those are some of the cities that are showing, and I'm not going to butcher some of these names of these cities, but there are plenty. This is not the only company that provides this. type of service, they wouldn't be able to keep up with all of it. We were very hesitant, about bringing this forward originally. We wanted to make sure that we did our actual due diligence on some of the questions that were asked. I asked staff and as a team for us to get together and really vet this as from a safety perspective. It is a great question. What do we have to gain from it? And if it goes elsewhere, the question would be, what do we have to lose from it?
Let me ask you this, Caesar, because we touched on it a little bit, but you may have more information. They are projecting $4 million valuation. We've cleared up the idea that perhaps we might not be able to realize revenue from that.
Yes, sir.
If we are actually able to realize revenue from this increased valuation, what sort of ballpark figure would we be looking at?
I'd have to run some numbers. Can't tell you those numbers, but I will try to run those pretty quickly.
Any other questions, council, for Mr. Alt or any of staff?
Mayor, I do have to follow up. I want to follow up just on your last.
Go ahead.
I've heard so much stuff here that I'm gonna pull my hair out. What's left of it. First, you, Mr. All, cannot guarantee that we are going to get 1 gigabyte, whatever you call it, a watt of power if it goes out at Lamarque. You cannot make that guarantee. This goes to a pool. We're not connected to Lamarque. The fact that I had a power outage for 1 second today is not going to be impacted by this technology in Lamarque.
Yeah, you may respond, Mr. Alt.
Sorry, yeah. I'm not sure I follow your question. I apologize.
You have stated 8,000 homes, the technology will provide power to 8,000 homes.
Yes, sir.
Are you saying that 8,000 homes in Lamarque are going to benefit by this?
What my statement, and apologize if I didn't make, there is enough energy in that system to power up approximately 8,000 residents. That's the amount of energy that's in the system.
In Lamarque.
I don't have the infrastructure details of what TNMP and that substation's distribution route is connected to. Nobody has that published. That's not published data.
Exactly.
What I would say is that substation is serving distribution power to that community, to that local community. So when we inject energy, we are injecting energy to that local community.
No, sir. I must say this because I was considered an appointment to the ERCOT board after the board resigned off of that after Uri. And I go through the documentation there. This is all part of a greater plan by ERCOT. The state of Texas, for political reasons, wants to get rid of this, reduce the solar, reduce the wind power that we have, and they've been investing their monies into these lithium, this new technology. That's number one. Number two, the plan is power when we have challenges are going to be directed at important industries. That's the number one priority under ERCOT plans. So they will adjust as they did during Uri. They maintain power to certain important industries and they shut off neighborhoods. And that's still the plan. That's still the plan. And but more importantly, and I get back to this, is that fine, Texas City, but this is, and Mayor, thank you for bringing this out. This, if you look at these communities that this is, and it gets to a social justice issue from the environmental side, you look at the communities, they're by and large the poor communities that these plants are located in, or those that are very rural. Austin County, which you gave is the nearest one, very rural community. They have less than, I think, 50,000 residents in Austin County over there, lots of land. I should know my mother was born there at Belleville. I know Austin County. So once again, what's in it for us? Nothing. What's the risks? A lot. You're not bringing us money to give to our fire department or the city. So no, what's going to remain opposed to this project?
I just have a quick question. What on the statement on the solar and wind, what was the statement?
The state of Texas, especially during this legislative session, is reducing its commitment to wind and solar. Look at all the.
Who's reducing the commitment?
The state of Texas in terms of dollars. They're also got rid of the credits that are available to you if you buy certain vehicles.
The solar and wind is being invested in Texas more than any other state in the US right now.
I'll show you
That's fine. There is an IRA bill that was passed probably 16 months ago, and that is a direct initiative for renewable energy, specifically wind and solar. Wind and solar is going to continue to increase in Texas. That you should see the ERCOT queue for solar generation and wind generation is magnitudes greater than any other infrastructure grid in not only the US, but in the world. So there's going to be more solar and wind that continue to come to Texas.
I agree with you on that, but those were projects that were planned several years back before this changed politically. Now, one last question, Gus, this is to you. I'm still having a bit of confusion when I look at this ordinance, and what's been bothering me, and I just realized it here and I underlined it. It says conditional. I don't quite understand. Explain to me conditional. Is this to say if they do their improvements and 2 years down the road, we decide that we want to withdraw this conditional use permit, we're permitted to do that?
The city zoning ordinance speaks to conditional use permits and when the council may grant them and what specifically the council must find to grant one. Those are set out in this.
The whereases.
Yes.
Yeah, and I read the whereases.
Yes.
Part of this, I don't think we've even done. Determine the adequate utilities, access road, drainage, and necessary site improvements have been or being provided.
I would say the council does that oftentimes through its city staff and the staff reports that are provided to the council.
And the city council has determined that the uses, values, and enjoyment of other property in the neighborhood, once again on the west side, which is our planned communities, and this is right near this new entertainment venue for the purpose already permitted, shall be in no foreseeable manner substantially impaired or diminished by the establishment, maintenance, and operation of the conditional use. I think this is inconsistent with what, anyway, I still remain opposed.
And to answer your first question, Mayor Pro Tem, the city code does allow the council to revoke a conditional use permit.
Oh, one last question.
Can I answer one of your previous questions? Just on response to, you said that ERCOT's initiative is to preserve during energy shortages, only emergency facilities or specific facilities. Right. And I mean, I think that's a correct approach to focus on emergency centers. What we're trying to do as battery developers is to prevent it from ever getting to that situation so that you don't have to take required brownouts or outages. So that's what these systems are for, is not to get ever in the state of a URI where ERCOT is specifically focusing energy only to critical infrastructure. That's the whole point of this, is not to get in that situation where, again, folks passed away and died. So.
And one last question for you. You didn't answer in any of the presentations. I was waiting to hear an answer. I asked specifically the question when you're here, why requesting information on why you can't show Marque if this were to be approved as an additional insured on your liability.
I actually spoke with staff. We did take that back when we can.
You can.
Yes, sir.
That's important.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
but that doesn't change my opinion.
I don't think anything will, but understood. I'm trying to answer all your questions. So
Good, Gus.
Sure. If that is council's pleasure, well, I will speak to it if that is council's pleasure.
Yeah, but we don't know if that's pleasure yet. Mr. Alt.
Yes, sir.
I bet you're tired. You represent Hunter Industries, right?
Yes, sir.
For-profit organization.
Yes, sir.
You found a piece of property. Your company bought the property.
Yes, sir.
This is America. This is a capitalistic society. Is it still America? This is a capitalistic society,
Yes, sir.
which means that you can purchase and acquire property and you can develop that property so long as it is consistent with the laws of this country and this state and this community. There are over 400 and counting of these particular battery storage facilities all over the state. And whether I like it or not, you've answered every question as it relates to whether or not these are safe. Our fire expert, our emergency expert has said these things are safe. Our attorney said these outfits are legal. Certainly that does not negate the fact that they are alarming and concerning, but this is a capitalistic society. And you can acquire property and develop it and improve it in any way, shape, or form that you would like, because this is still America. I don't like what you are proposing to do simply because it makes people nervous,
Sure.
but that does not allow me to infringe upon your rights or the rights of your company or the company that you represent. So that's causing me some concern. One more time, Caesar. This valuation that we are speaking about, this $4 million improvement, do you have any numbers?
Very brief scratch numbers, and I don't have the breakdown as to how they would go, but roughly if considering the same tax rate, roughly $18,000. Not to say that how that would be spread and how that would go, but assuming that everything was true, obviously the ISD would get proportionate somewhat, but please don't hold me that number. That was very quick scratch paper.
$18,000?
Per
Roughly,
year.
roughly.
And that makes me even angrier, Mr. Alt. $18,000, but this is still a capitalistic society.
And if my math is off, it was very quick.
And I don't know that we want to be a government or a society or a community that would want to limit the ambition of the American people. And so I don't know that I would want to do that tonight. If there's any further discussion, we can certainly hear that. If not, we'll call for a motion and a vote.
Mayor,
Go ahead,
can I
Joe.
just add, last, appropriate enough, the last paragraph and information given, and this is something that the city manager has said about California. Given that it's an untested technology, it's new, and there are concerns over lithium ion battery fires, many states and cities in California, West Virginia, Arizona, to name a few states specifically, have put these projects on hold. Once again, I don't want Lamarck to be Mikey. Go do it in Texas.
Very good. Thank you, Joe. Any further
Mr. Alt,
discussion?
I'd like to, I personally, after talking with Chief Merriman, dealing with batteries underwater for many years of my life, knowing that there's over 400 of these in the state of Texas, operational and in some form of planning and processing right now. I think everything you've provided to me personally that I've asked for has been phenomenal. Knowing the construction of the containers that are going through dealing with radioactive materials and stuff before in my previous life, I understand what they can withhold and what they can stand. The batteries aren't as deadly as the ones that we charged underway for sealed delivery systems. This is just, it actually is an improvement to the city. It will bring more industry because it will create a grid stabilization, at least on that side of 45. And I think the city needs to look more at what we will do to improve that side of 45, Delaney Cove, for Amazon, for Walmart, for our companies over there that are looking at the free space to build new projects and everything, and not look at this as a new technology. We've been bringing submarines to sea with the nuclear reactor for 100 years almost now. They've had a battery that was caustic, that could burn a hole through the bottom of the boat. This is not as new as everybody thinks. When was the last time you heard of a Tesla fire in the middle of a freeway because a battery went bad? This is the direction we need to go. And I appreciate what your company has done.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we will entertain a motion to approve or deny.
I make the motion that we approve this proposal.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yes,
Yes, sir, Mr. Carlson.
I have issues. I have a safety issue with that. Now, Mr. Ross, I heard your comment about Teslas catching fire. I'm in an environment where Teslas are every other vehicle. So it can happen. My concern is the public safety aspect, and it concerns me is we have a fire chief that needs to be more proactive, in my opinion, in dealing with the what if. What if those batteries do catch fire? Is there a way to put it out? I mean, you can Google search, which I already did, all these lithium ion batteries that catch fire. I mean, cars have them nowadays. Remember back when they had hoverboards that caught fire. My concern is what's going to happen to the environment because we can't put those out. There is no halon type agent to put those out. And that's what concerns me. So that's, I'm going to go with the mayor pro tem when we call for the vote. So thank you. That's my comment.
Thank you, Michael. Chief Merriman, Councilman Carlson mentioned you by name as far as your comfort level with this. Did you want to reiterate whether or not you are or are not comfortable?
You know, Mayor and Council, after speaking with these guys, they're going to come out, do the proper amount of training, and they have literally told us, do not put water on them because they are designed to be self-contained. There is external shutoffs. There are kill switches. I am satisfied with the emergency response plan that we're not going to get any of us hurt in dealing with these.
What about the community?
What did he say?
Excuse me, Michael, would you repeat?
I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, Chief. What about the community? What about a toxic vapor cloud from these things being overheated? Do we have an assurance on that? That troubles me too.
Well, I mean,
So, Councilman Carlson, what I understand, these are contained inside of a container, inside of a container. And they have a filtration system that goes through the outside of the unit. If you look at the pictures, you have the unit that is self-contained with containers inside of a container. And then it has its own plant next to it for air filtration to keep it from exiting any gases and stuff to the outside world.
Well, I get that, but so did the submarine Kursk. And we know what happened there.
It had a torpedo that blew up inside of it and split it in half. That's
All right.
a whole different situation.
All right.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
I got
yeah. Appreciate that, Michael. We're gonna go in a different direction.
All I can say, you know, the safety parameters that we're taking are the latest based on the industry standards. Again, if there's any irregularities in a single cell, there's over 12,000 sensors on the entire plant. So every cell is monitored. So if there's a temperature, if there's a gas detection leak, if there's any emittance of a regular performance of one of these cells, the system derates and then the system shuts down. So we take a proactive approach. That's the industry standards, is taking a proactive approach. I know everyone cited different fires throughout the country. Most of those fires are not lithium ion phosphate. Those are NMC. That's a nickel manganese cobalt. The operating temperature is much, much higher. The standalone energy storage is all focused on lithium ion phosphate. So even your Teslas, your hoverboards, your scooters, those areas that are those batteries that are catching on fire are not this chemistry. That is a different chemistry. There's a reason why the standalone energy storage community has gone to lithium ion phosphate. You're not seeing any of the heavy metals. This is lithium and iron. These are common elements found in the ground today. Again, it's a proactive approach for the sensing and security capabilities of these sites. That's the latest standards. That's the UL 9540A standards. Again, we went in depth on all the different security components and the safety components to these sites. They are going to derate when they start to get in a system that just is a higher degradation, not a combustible, not a high energy, not an explosive, not a hazardous environment, but just if you start to be hard on your system, it's going to derate. You get to anything that's exacerbating that harshness or that degradation on the system, the site is shutting down. It's shutting down way before any of this thermal propagation can even exist in the system. And I would hope that folks look at the UL 954A testing, because I think it really does a good job of showing the stresses that these systems can be put on, and the reality is that can't happen on these systems. So
Just to be clear, you said lithium ion is your
lithium iron phosphate, excuse me, lithium iron phosphate.
lithium ion phosphate, like the facility in Arizona that caught on fire and exploded.
That system was I believe an NMC. That was a nickel manganese cobalt system. They
And-
refer to these systems both as lithium ion. There is a difference when you're talking about the chemistry. That's a much harsher chemistry and a much higher temperature operating environment.
Yeah.
And there's similar fire in California facility that caused, like just this year, September, a day-long shelter in place advisory for the entire community.
And
then
no one from that community was hurt. I realized there was correct safety precautions that were taken. There was no perimeter folks or perimeter infrastructure that was damaged. Do you know what caused that fire? It was an electrical fire water suppression system that went off because a computer caught on fire and a water system activated and then shorted out battery
And
cells.
thank you, Mr. All, for proving the point that these are not foolproof. Exactly. Thank you.
Let's
And by the way,
let's
one other thing, I have
let-
to say this, Mayor.
and then we'll
Just
move
to
on.
Councilmember Ross, who's new. Thank you for speaking on behalf of the residents of District B. I didn't know that that's what we were doing here on council.
Let's move on, Mayor Pro
So-
Tem. Let's move on. We're all here trying to do what's best for the citizens of Lamarck. We all have that stake, and that's that vested interest. Ms. Yancey, you wanted to speak. Kathleen, I'm sorry. I saw you, Ms. Van Staveren, I saw you approaching the podium as well. Let's let Ms. Yancey speak, and then Ms. Van Staveren, you'll come. Well, Ms. Yancey is deferring to you. You speak, and then Ms.
I just
Yancey.
want to let you know on your concerns. We had a long meeting with the city manager and their team and our team. And we went through all their emergency plans, looked at their schematics and everything. And they've agreed to do yearly training with our fire department. And we're not talking video, we're talking hands-on training with our fire department.
Yeah.
For these things. And special access so they can get in the gate just like that if they needed to. So I just want you to remember that they're willing to do, you know,
Sure.
everything that's, it won't cost the city extra to train these officers, these firefighters, to learn these things. They're willing to do that for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms.
No, I just wanted to mention, my family is originally from Round Rock on my dad's side. And I remember when these conversations were happening with Michael Dell and his chips. Same thing about will it burn up? And Round Rock, if you know about Round Rock, Texas, back in the 80s and 90s, it was pretty much like a little small town. Everybody knew each other. But Michael Dell changed that whole area of Round Rock, Pflugerville, because of the new technology emerging. This is new technology, be it political. It is a new technology that we know we need. Texas is one of the fastest growing states. If you looked at the paper today, it talked about how we're running out of area codes. There's so many people. They're calling it the Texodus. And we know we've already had issues with our grid system. But I want the citizens of Lamarck to understand that we have an opportunity to be a part of new technology, growing technology, just like Round Rock, Texas did. And one of the things that I think my generation understands is we embrace it. We embrace it. I just told you earlier, we don't have an EV station. Our citizens have to go all the way to Webster to even charge their car, but that's the kind of cars that we purchase. And not to make anyone seem archaic, I think safety is a concern. Our staff has told us that they are willing to learn. And I'm very excited, sir, that you have chosen this city out of over 400 cities that you could have chosen. Over what, I don't know how many counties. Our county is the 13th largest county in the state of Texas. But I think I will be in support of this technology, and we will definitely be monitoring this new technology.
Mr. Alt, there are certainly a few of our residents that have concerns about your operation. I certainly have some concerns about your operation. But I also remember Winter Storm Uri, and I remember the desperation in the eyes of the citizens, of the residents of this city, the fear, the terror in the eyes of many of our elderly in this city when they were not certain if they would be able to heat their homes and move about their business as a human being. I remember the suffering during COVID because of our inability to provide power during Winter Storm Uri in our community. And I'm just of the mindset that I want to know, and I want our residents to know, that we've done everything in our power. Perhaps, God forbid, that there would be another Winter Storm Uri. There are storms in the Gulf as we speak. There are heat waves that are ravaging our community. Even on last week, we experienced a heat wave. And I want the community to know that we're doing everything in our power to bolster the grid as it relates to our community. May not impact every member of our community, but if we're doing our part, I believe that we're doing something that would be of benefit to not only our community, but the communities in our county. And I think that is a more important goal for us as this city. Lastly, again, it really does not matter what we all think about what you're doing. This is America, and you have a right to do it. In fact, this has been, again, let's say it together, this has been proven to be safe, not as safe as doing nothing, but nothing is as safe as doing nothing, right? There's always an inherent risk in anything you do. You all are doing something that is progressive. The risk will be more prevalent because it hadn't been done before. I don't like it, but this is America. This country was founded upon our ability to capitalize, to improve, to grow, and to expand. And that's, sir, what you and your company are attempting to do in our city. And I can't stand in your way. There is nothing here tonight that would say that you're doing anything illegal or even immoral in any way. And so I don't have any grounds to oppose you on this. And so having said that, if there's no further discussion.
I
Gus?
believe Councilmember Ross made a motion that
I
was,
made the motion.
oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Yancey made the motion and Councilman Ross second.
Just to follow up on something that was given, League City has one of these and more coming online soon.
League City has one of these and more coming.
Soon.
Well, there's the first affluent city. There you go, League City.
And on the number, it's 18,465 and 12 cents.
Very good. I will entertain a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Very good. Thank you all for deliberating on this important topic. Thank you all for participating in this. Mr. All, thank you for participating in this discussion.
Thank you.
We are now on item 8.1, resolutions. Unless otherwise specified, the city manager is authorized to execute all necessary documents upon the final approval by the city attorney. 8.1, resolution number R-2023-0042, rejecting all bids for lease or purchase of city property for the redevelopment of city property. Caesar.
Yes, I see Gus just stepped out, but this was an item that was brought before you on RFP that went out. We want to dot our i's and cross our t's. So we're asking for you to reject all bids released for this property so we can properly go out and release it. There was one small thing missing, which included the proper description of the property, the full description that we would like to have just in case anybody else would like to put a bid in for this property. And we're asking you to please reject this bid tonight so we can bring it back formally once more.
Very good. Is this the 14 acres?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Did we have a bid?
Yes, sir.
We did have one bid.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Garcia as it relates to this item? Hearing none, where is Gus available? Do you know the name of that one bidder?
We do. JK5 was the one bidder.
JK5. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm going to step back and allow you to take this vote as I have received a campaign contribution from KL5. This is item 8-1.
So the item on the floor is item 8-1, rejecting all bids for lease or purchase of city property for the development of city property. Have a motion,
So moved.
have a motion by Councilperson Yancey. Need a second?
Second.
And have a second by Councilperson Carlson. Any discussion? And hearing no discussion, call for the vote. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Motion passes. One abstention, I'm sorry.
One abstention. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. 8-2, resolution number letter R-2023-0043. Authorizing a blower replacement at the wastewater treatment plant. Caesar.
Yes, Mayor. As some of you may know, and just to educate folks, our wastewater facility plant is soon going to be going through a migration and a development to get a new plant. But unfortunately, that is a daunting feat that will take quite a while to actually put out. You'll be receiving those bids here shortly. What we are doing now is our current facility only has one working blower. As we know, we never want to be down to just one working blower. We'd rather be with two plus a backup. Fortunately, right now, we've been operating with one for a considerable amount of time. Our attempts to fixing it have proven to be too costly. And so Rick has worked with the folks to come up with a different opportunity to keep a better working plan available. Rick, we'll ask you to.
Yes, sir. So the blowers, Mr. Garcia speaks of our Atlas Copco blowers. They were installed in the plant back in 2016. They're variable speed, turbo blowers. We lost one of those blowers last year. We've gone through a process of trying to fix that blower. It was unsuccessful. We are running one blower right now. That plant cannot run without air. So my statement in the agenda memo is we critically need to try to move forward here. Atlas Copco has offered the city a plan, which is actually a lease plan on a blower that they have available. The fixed charge is like $1,780 a month. They own the blower, they maintain the blower. It's a 5-year plan. We consider it a good option at this point. As Mr. Garcia relates, we are in the process of constructing a new wastewater treatment plant, an expansion of the existing one. That plant will also need blowers. Once with that plant comes into design and we take that plant out to construction, we'd like to have similar blowers on both sides of the plant, both the old plant and the new plant, rather than a mix of different blowers. We have a relationship with Atlas Copco right now. We're running one of their blowers, as I stated, that we will continue to operate. Replacing the blower is an option. The cost of new blowers are roughly $150,000. That does not include installation. This blower with a rental program is about $104,000 over 5 years. We won't own the blower after those 5 years, but we don't have any maintenance costs. The other blower that we are actually operating prior in 2022, we spent about $50,000 in repairs on that blower. So buying another blower, putting it in there over a period of 2, 3, 4 years doesn't guarantee that there'll be some maintenance costs on a blower if we do buy one. The advantage of using this, what they refer to as an air plan, saves the city any expense on maintaining this blower. The other blower we still own, we would have to maintain it. But the airplane blower, the blower that we're talking about bringing in for this $1,780 a month, is an option that we feel is a good option. Engineering's looked at it, city managers looked at it. We're bringing it to you as what we feel is a good option for us to get 2 blowers in that plant right now, because that's what we need to do.
Rick, I'm sorry to
The
interrupt you
cost-
there
Go
real
ahead.
quick, just to offset that. What we're basically looking at is, should we buy or lease? Buy and we do our maintenance, because we need to have a second blower going, versus lease with a maintenance plan. Weighing those 2 options is what we've been looking at all this time. We've attempted, unfortunately, we've had to do some emergency repairs over this past year and spent well over $50,000 on repairing the current one that is currently in operation now. I'd like to comment on one of the questions I was asked on the installation, $50,000, regardless of which option we were to go with, we still need to pay for that install. So the $50,000 install is still there, something that still needs to occur. I also would like to comment on the $25,000 with the control valve. Could you please speak?
Sure, I was going to touch on that. So there's right now, unfortunately, as you know, there's been some deferred maintenance in the past years within the city. So the control parameters, the control hardware that supplies information to these blowers, which is, I'm going to get a little technical on you here. We run our plants with dissolved air. That's what we feed to the microorganisms that treat the wastewater. They're living, breathing organisms just like us. So we have to keep air in those basins. That amount of air that is what these blowers supply. There's a feedback control that tells the blowers if it needs to supply more air or less air. Those hardware devices have not been working in many years. So part of this program, as this new blower gets in, is a recommendation to replace those components, which is about $25,000. Those components really need to get replaced anyway. So I didn't really include them in the fiscal cost of the project because we don't have to do them. But it's certainly recommended to get these devices working so that the system actually works as it's designed to work. The hard costs that we're bringing to council is the rental program, which is at $1780.21 per month. And then there's integration that Atlas Copco's got to do, which is about $30,000. And then there's about another $20,000 for just the installation cost. So that's where that 50,000 estimate is coming in, to actually take out the old blower and put in the new one.
In layman's terms, Caesar.
Sorry.
I've been there, so I know this.
So essentially, again, we need 2 blowers. One right now we currently own. And if we're going to buy another one, then we need to be ready to fork over probably $250,000 ballpark, 2 to 250, depending on delivery, install, and what have you. Option A, which we're not necessarily ready to do right now, in my opinion, just based on what's going on, versus paying for that solely over time on a piece of equipment that we can pretty much have self-maintained. The 1780 is for pretty much lease of the ownership as well as the maintenance for it. I will also say, before anybody asks the next question, is the lifespan of these, because that's kind of weighing the options. Do you want to touch on that?
These blowers went in 2016, so they're basically 6 years old. We've it's got off a discussion about power, but we've had some power supply issues at the plant. That was discussed with Texas, New Mexico. As you know, we're working on improving our power feeds out of our 1764 lift station. The instrument, they're called variable frequency drives. They need good, clean power. And that's what actually happened to this blower back in August of last year. The one that's down right now is it failed because of power issues. I will tell you that we have had insurance come out and take a look at both of these large faults that we've had. I don't have any determination at this point if it's covered through insurance at this
Yeah.
point in time, but that is being looked at.
So what was the life of the equipment?
In our, right now, from what we've had from the one that was bought previously, it lasted about 6 years, and it's been out for about almost a year, give or take. So it lasted right at about 5 years. So had we entered into a lease agreement, if it was possible last time we did this in 2016, right now we would have probably saved $50,000 to $100,000.
Yeah, okay.
Now, it could be the other way. Some of these could last a lot longer. Rick just mentioned one that we purchased and we put $50,000 into repairs into it. That's another annual expense as well.
I
So
mean, most rotating equipment, you know, rule of thumb, 10 to 15 years, 10 to 12 years on most rotating equipment. And sometimes in certain equipment, you can do rebuilds on. We operate a lot of pumps, a lot of motors. I mean, if you can get 10 to 12 years out of equipment, that's pretty good. Most of these blowers are running 24/7. If we have two of them, they're.
So if you get 10 to
shared.
12 years out of the one that we're leasing, will we need to get 10 to 12 years out of the one that we're
This is
leasing?
a 5-year lease plan is
5-year
all,
lease.
is all you're committed to, right?
And so
So
that
after
5
5 years, we could do another lease or we could buy another blower. Within the 5-year time frame. And the reason I was bringing this up about the other plant is there are other blowers out there. We've had some concerns about the Atlas Copco blowers. They went in 2016. They went in as a energy saving piece of equipment because of the variable speed. They're able to use power more efficiently than basically centrifugal blowers, which is another option. The centrifugal blowers will use more power. I don't have the information to provide to you if we saw those cost savings or not. Like I say, unfortunately, the feedback information that these blowers need to actually work efficiently has not been working. So it's somewhat of a moot point, I guess.
So roughly that's $21,000 a year at 17.
Yes, sir.
roughly.
So it would take us basically 12 years we would have to lease for 12 years in order to recoup if we were to buy one for $250,000, right?
Essentially just about.
Yeah.
It's, if we went the full lifespan, yes, that's what the math equates to.
Yeah, I
Just
got
keep
you.
in mind
I
that
got
no matter which way we do it, we're still having to pay the 50,000 for install. And the $25,000 additional that Rick alluded to, is to be able to have better control. of
And
the
this is
case.
free maintenance.
That is all included, all
It's their
inclusive for
blower.
that. It's their maintenance system,
Okay.
so they've got to
Okay.
come work.
We don't know.
So that was my question. So we don't have to have a secondary maintenance plan on it
No,
at
sir.
all. So for $21,000 a year, they're gonna come out and look at it, fix it, touch it, do whatever needs to be done to it. Our controller of their blower.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
That's easy money to me.
Yeah. Any other questions? Go ahead,
yes.
Joe.
Under the GLO funding that we have for the building of a new wastewater treatment plant, does that include blowers?
Oh, yes, sir.
So, and because we don't have it, but what's the timeline for the project, for that project?
The new treatment plant, we're probably looking at 3 years before that plant's up and operating, 3 to 4 years.
So then we're committed to a lease for a blower that we don't need?
No, sir, because the other plant's gonna need separate blowers. This blower is only on the existing.
On the
plant.
existing
The new
plant.
plant,
We'll have,
even though it's side by side, the pipe work is not gonna be connected.
All right.
So the blowers for the expansion plant, referred to as maybe the new plant, will have its own blowers.
and where's in the agreement, the maintenance? Because I'm looking at section 8.4 of the agreement on page 8 that says the company is not subject, the equipment is not subject to any sort of warranty, express or implied. And then, in fact, they're hereby disclaimed. So where's the service contract that you mentioned?
And you're reading on section 8.
Yeah, I'm
8.1.
looking at section 8. There's section care and maintenance. And then under care and maintenance, it says the company received notification. The day outcome will be deemed to be. The customer will be responsible for the safekeeping of the equipment, its operation, its service, and maintenance in accordance with the manufacturer's guidelines. That's just inconsistent with what you said. Read this.
Sorry, I should have had it highlighted there. Give me.
Is that 8 point?
Do you see it?
Mayor Pro Tem, I'm looking just to make sure. Is that 8.7? Is that where you're looking at, Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm looking at page 11, section 24.2.
Mhm. I read it earlier. All right.
See it, Mayor? Want to see it, Mayor? Right there.
Caesar?
I'm looking for this, Mayor.
So on section 28, provision of services during the contract period, the company, meaning act, shall perform periodic inspections and maintenance of the equipment, perform the repair of any defects on the equipment on an as-needed basis, as well as any other tasks included in the definition of services. This will include the
Defects, no.
repair or replacement of parts and equipment if such a result of normal use of the equipment under indicated conditions, as far as customer can prove the instructions of use of equipment given by the company are strictly followed. So as long as we're operating the equipment per the operating manual.
Are you there, Gus? Are you on 24 too?
I am, and what I would say is that is correct. The repair includes repairs, and then it references services, which is then defined on page 5, which says services means the services to be performed by the company in accordance with the terms and conditions of the agreement and as listed in the quotation. So you have to go back to the quotation, which I believe is what Atlas Copco sent. That is what is on the first page of the attachment, that said that where it's stating that Atlas Cop, where on Atlas Copco's letterhead signed by their sales manager, it is saying that Atlas Copco will relieve the burden of asset management and maintenance planning by assuming responsibility of delivering compressed air. Goes on in the second last paragraph. Says generally parts and lubricants specially designed and developed for your compressor are kept in stock. And our service technicians are always up to date with our maintenance standards and will provide you with the best service in the market. Now, if to answer the Mayor Pro Tem's question, is there a potential ambiguity that's created? Possibly. And if you would like me to amend this again, or amend it to say, to specifically call out routine maintenance is the responsibility of Atlas Copco, and such cost is already being paid for by the city. We can absolutely do that. And Caesar and I could, and Reg, make that amendment, send it back to them. Go from
Okay.
there.
Joe, would that help?
I mean, I just wanted, just in plain English, they're responsible for what this is.
Sure. Is that something that you recommend that council bring back, or is that something that you believe we can address here in this discussion, Joe?
As long as council, just as long as Gus deals with it. I know you need a blower. We don't like to have problems with something as important as wastewater treatment.
Just so I'm clear, should you choose, your request is that all the maintenance costs are Atlas Copco's responsibility and negotiate that with them.
Very good. Are there any objections, council, to adding that? There are no objections. Do we have a motion on the floor?
I don't believe so.
We'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
The second,
Second.
any further discussion? Let the record reflect that the council is approving this or voting to approve this based on the recommendations made and offered by Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item 8, I believe 3. Resolution number letter R-2023-0004, authorizing a memorandum of understanding with United Way Galveston County Mainland Branch. Are there representatives from the United Way here with us tonight?
No, Mayor, there's actually nobody here. I will be presenting on their behalf as well as some of these. As we've been doing some of the previous meetings, we're bringing to you, formalizing some of the agreements and relationships we've had. As you know, the United Way has been partners with the city for years. And we've worked together on several different fundraising opportunities. As you know, our staff can contribute through their paychecks for the United Way as an employee benefit. And it does get dispersed through United Way amongst other nonprofits that serve the county. We bring this item to you for that purpose, to actually formalize that agreement. Here we are, where we've been actually exchanging funds with the organization, not having a agreement in place, and we're trying to formalize all these partnerships.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
The second,
Second.
any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8.4, resolution number letter R-2023-0045, authorizing a memorandum of understanding with the Advocacy Center for Children of Galveston County. Are
This
there any
item-
persons?
Yeah, no one's here either. This item actually came through our police department. We're bringing this item to you again, another service that we're providing for advocacy for children. Another group that we're partnered to provide services. As you know, we don't have a social service delivery department within our city, but partnering with some of our local nonprofits to provide these services. And this is one that we believe firmly will continue towards that vision.
Any questions? All right, I will entertain a motion.
So
Is
moved.
there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 8.5, resolution number letter R-2023-0046, authorizing a memorandum of understanding with Clean Coast, Texas. Caesar.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, with Clean Coast, Texas is one of the partnerships that we're trying to strengthen to be more coherent with part of the bay that we actually protect through our Island Bayou corridor, as well as Omega Bay, which obviously all have water frontage. We are pursuing this partnership with Clean Coast, Texas, to strengthen our relationship and them helping us to find resources and partnering in ways that we can bring more education of our environmental duties.
Any questions? I will entertain a motion.
So
Is
moved.
there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8.6, resolution number letter R-2023-0047, authorizing a memorandum of understanding with the Chosen Ones Outreach Ministries of Galveston Incorporated. Caesar?
Yes, Mayor, thank you again. Chosen Ones was here earlier, made their presentation. I see that they've exited the building. This is another service delivery component as an MOU that we're bringing forward so we can strengthen some of the services for our residents.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 8-7.
I'm abstaining there.
You abstaining? Let the record reflect that Mayor Pro Tem abstains. He has a prior relationship, I believe you said earlier, with the Chosen Ones organization. 8-7, resolution number letter R dash 2023 dash 0048. Requesting preventative tree trimming around utility lines. This is something that I asked Mr. Garcia to put on the agenda. Several of our citizens are concerned as hurricane season has been upgraded. We anticipate as a region to experience potentially life-threatening weather in hurricane season. And certainly we wanted to, as a community, communicate to Centerpoint, Texas, New Mexico, that we desperately want them to trim those tree branches around our power lines. I believe it was Hurricane Ike we talked about had our city without power for about 3 weeks, many of our residents. And so we want to stand hoping to prevent that. Any questions about this resolution? Hearing none, we will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 9, city manager report, a submitted report to update council and community on standard operations of the city. Report can be acknowledged as a whole or discussed at the pleasure of council. I don't see anything for your report today. Caesar, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, Mayor, I have a couple items under items for the good of the order.
Okay.
If I could just share
We'll
with
pick
you.
it up. Item 10, new business items presented to council for the discussion of possible action. 10-1 budget workshop dates, approving budget workshop dates, July 24th, July 25th, July 27th, July 31st, and August the 1st. And those budget workshops are scheduled to begin at 10 a.m. each of those days.
Okay, I have a conflict with that. Remember, I'm working on that
I
time.
believe that the plan is to schedule presentations in the morning. We do know that you'll be available in the afternoon. So we will have department heads in the afternoon and presentations in the morning that you can follow up with questions as you are able to view the presentations. Very good.
I may have 2 other conflicts, but I'll let you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We will entertain a motion to, did you need us to approve that, Caesar?
No, Mayor, it was more for information, if that's okay.
Very good. I 10-2, request for proposal authorizing the issuance of a request for proposal for planning and management professional services. Caesar.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Through a lot of our planning efforts that we've had, we've identified funding opportunities through our community development block grant. The possibility of us stabilizing some more of our plans. Rick is approaching the podium here. We've identified some projects, both on the flooding side, to alleviate some of those issues. We feel that this might be the best form of funding to follow, to pursue for these forms of funding. We are in the eligible areas and we do qualify through our zip code for these opportunities. We would like your blessing to move forward with that. Rick, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir. There are some options that we're still considering on this plan. In the resilient community plan project, it has to do with some zoning ordinances we can look at. We're also looking at, it's a $300,000 funding, so it's not a huge sum of money. Comp plan consideration as far as doing some pre-planning on a comprehensive plan. Also, public education would be another source that we may consider.
And this would be just the approval to go out and obtain a company to do the work. Any application would come back to you for formal submission prior to that.
Is there any cost associated with this company coming in to prepare the grant?
This is a federal funding, so no, any cost would be countered at time of award.
Very good. Any further questions for Caesar or for Rick as it relates to this item? Hearing none, we will, do you need anything from us on this item?
If you could authorize us to go out
Sure.
and do this, so we could release this, please.
Council Boo will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 10-3 wastewater discharge agreement, discussion provide direction regarding a potential wastewater discharge agreement with Republic Services with a 90-day trial period to ensure operational compliance with the city's wastewater discharge permit. Is Republic Services here tonight?
They are present and available. for
You are here
questions.
tonight. You may approach at this time. Caesar, former Councilman James Osteen brought up a bad experience, past experience with this particular initiative. Can we perhaps shed some light on that and then allow for the discussion to move forward?
Certainly. I'd like to just take a moment. Thank you all for being here this evening. Republic is a relationship that the city entered into, and correct me on the dates, I know it was quite a while ago.
2016.
In 2016. So there was a discharge permit with a previous administration that was brought to light to us shortly after coming. As you know, Rick and I joined roughly about a year and a half ago. This was brought to our attention, the fact that this agreement existed. Some of the major concerns with the agreement had to do with, obviously, that at the time that we had an agreement with Republic, during the same time when some of the testing occurred, we did have some testing that came a little bit higher than desirable with a copper, with the actual copper release. If I'm speaking out of turn in any, please, I know this is, I'm trying to be as brief as I can up here. So in that, at that time, a cease order was given, and we pretty much stopped having this agreement moving forward. What we learned from the time that it was ceased in 2021 to now is that the program itself may not have been the cause for the copper to be positive. Since that it was ceased, we've had a higher than usual copper in other areas. Things that we've been able to sustain and address, but nonetheless, there have been a cause for that. So it may not have been this contract to begin with. So that's one of the two issues that we have. And without further ado, I guess, Rick, do you want to?
That's true, sir. Like I said, especially from my standpoint, and also Mr. Garcia, we're relatively new, but looking back at the history, and I'm still trying to dig up some more of that history. We have had copper excursions. The wastewater treatment plant, our permit, discharge permit into the bayou has an extremely low copper permit. It's 0.007. It's very low. Some of the other adjoining cities around us aren't even regulated for copper. We are. That being said, we have to maintain under our copper. We have more copper in our drinking water than we're actually able to discharge into the bayou. So most of the copper that comes out at the treatment plant comes out as solids. We remove the production of a wastewater treatment plant produces two things: clean water we puts through the bayou, and solids which we haul off and put into a landfill. The copper, the metals, the heavy metals, and the biosolids waste basically end up going in a landfill. So the copper needs to come out of the water. The treatment plants, no wastewater, biological wastewater treatment plants are designed to treat for copper. They're just not. We have a microorganism that is made to treat wastewater, which is mainly sugars and other soluble pollutants that are in wastewater, not metals. So because of the fact that we had copper excursions after the fact that Republic Service wasn't even discharging to us, at least put a question on my mind and our mind. Shannon Bro, who's our superintendent, it also got hired about a year ago. We're all new. We just started wondering if the excursions or the problems that were possibly attributed to Republic Services were truly, in fact, due to their discharge. The city had been in business, we'd been taking water from Republic since 2016 with evidently no problems. We did have some problems at the treatment plant in some subsequent years, 2019, 2020, that may have led to some of the problems with the wastewater treatment plant not operating at peak capacity where it's able to actually remove solids better than what we were able to remove. So if we end up having solids discharged through our water system, that those solids sometimes will pick up copper. I don't have that for a fact, but those are just variables that we've kind of looked at.
So it wasn't their fault, it was ours. Basically
Right.
what you're saying.
Right.
We entertained bringing this back to you about a year ago. We wanted to make sure we were comfortable in our operations. We feel much more comfortable now, not only from appearance, but also from systematically how we're operating. That we're comfortable bringing this back on a trial. That's what we're bringing for you tonight, to allow us a 90-day trial to see, hey, can we really do this?
And we've increased monitoring. We've asked Republic Services, the old agreement, they were discharging or sampling monthly. We're requiring them to sample weekly. We've talked to them about putting in a continuous pH monitor. pH is important for us to know what type of water is coming off that facility. Admittedly, the leachate that comes out of a landfill has a lot of different substances in it. It's not a hazardous landfill. They don't take hazardous material. But there is methane, there's some amount of minerals and copper. The copper's been an issue because, like I say, we have a very low copper number. That's one of the things that we require them to sample. We sample copper every week, both incoming water to the treatment plant and our effluent, what we're discharging to the bayou. So those numbers are, and if those numbers begin to increase after we begin taking water in from Republic, that is something that we want to be able to take a look at without attempting to consider it. You know, we just don't know. And right now, I just talked with the superintendent, is that right, Modesto? And they're trucking wastewater to other facilities, including Hitchcock. So the city here, we've got an opportunity to take this water, put it through our treatment plant. It's a revenue generating source, roughly $500,000 to $700,000 a year, that we're bypassing because our fear that we would violate our permit, that I can't guarantee you that we would violate our permit. We evidently weren't violating it for 6 years prior, and we were underneath the same permit. And so why everything went haywire in 21 or 2021, I guess I really don't have an answer for you.
So just two things. The fact that it is going to areas around us is one point. So it's already going to places, though it's already going to be indirectly or directly into our actual water stream. But also we hold ourselves, whether we want to or whether that's the way it was given to us through our permit, where our incoming water has a higher amount of copper in it than our exiting water into the bayou currently. So regardless, we already have pretty stringent constraints on us right now.
Does Hitchcock, does their wastewater treatment dump into Highland Bayou?
I imagine so, sir. I don't know that for sure, but I would imagine so.
Well, let's get Republic's representatives to step forward. Welcome. Please state your name for the record.
Alex Griffin with Republic Services.
Darla Beyer. Amy Gabinski.
Welcome, ladies. Certainly the issue is whether or not this operation will cause harm to our bayou and subsequently to our families here. And so that's the discussion here tonight. Do we have any, let's allow you all to address that question first, and then we can follow up with questions.
I can't think of anything that you guys haven't already addressed that would be anything different to our knowledge. Like they mentioned, the copper was there even after we stopped discharging. So, and when we ran our own tests with our team, I don't even know if there was even a hint of copper, but to our knowledge, there shouldn't be because it's a non-hazardous landfill.
In the most recent sample this month, we did not have any copper detected.
And when you say sample, where was this sample conducted?
This was a sample collected at our leachate tanks where the leachate is stored until it was disposed of off-site. That's where the trucks that we're currently using to dispose of other facilities hooked up and will pump through their trucks. And this was tested then at a third-party accredited lab for monthly for T-clip and other metals for our leachate agreement.
Which was done during discussions with them to help these conversations.
Previously, when we were exposing prior to 21, we were collecting monthly leachate samples and analyzing them, and then once we stopped utilizing Marque for disposal, we continued the sampling just to make sure that our level were remaining consistent.
So I guess that would be my question. During the time that we noticed that there was an increased amount of copper in our bayou, you all were doing testing as well.
Correct.
Was there any indication in you all's testing that there was an issue with what you all were running through our system?
No, sir. I'd say the peak, our copper was at 0.6 milligrams per liter. Which is very milligrams per liter, like a liter of gallon soda. That's pretty small.
When the relationship broke down, was there allegations from our government that we believe that you all introduced a high amount of copper into our?
So I don't know if we all were you there during those initial conversations? Okay, because all the specifics at the time when it happened, I'm not sure if we can speak to everything that happened then. I remember being on a couple calls where it was mostly trying to figure out where it came from. And since we were the landfill disposed, like direct charge discharging, there was high suspicion that it was us. But I know during the conversations, we were trying to have those conversations that it's not necessarily.
Because at
coming
the
directly
same
from us.
time, we were conducting the monthly sampling
At our facility.
Did you all communicate those results to our government at the time? Was it more of like a, hey, this is not us, guys, this is?
Yeah.
I believe I provided
I can't remember who the legal-
analytics at that time.
I'm not sure they're with the city either anymore.
Sure. I'll step back, guys, and allow for council to question if you have any questions.
So they said that their parts per milliliter is 0.06. What is our parts per milliliter that we can put out?
0.007 or.
So much lower than their 0.06.
I believe in the last service agreement, our limit was 2.0 milligrams per liter, and the prior.
Yeah, as far as income unit, our drinking water, well, we just got to do a copper sampling in our the drinking water that we pull from household tap, 0.14, 0.15, which is under action limit for copper and water. That's not a high amount of copper. But our influent copper levels are higher than our estimated copper levels all the time, so like I said, that copper is actually removed through the plants, through the sludge waste, through the solids, if it's settled out, through the solid.
Right.
Down. So as long as the treatment plant's running efficiently, because we're not, if we have solids going to the body, sometimes it's a big problem. Now, I can't speak about what's happening back in 21 year old.
I understand. I just want to make sure that that people understand what our limits are and how we can get there and why we shouldn't have to worry about it.
Any further questions? Good.
One thing I didn't bring up was the flow we're talking about is about 3% of what we do through that treatment plant a day. 3%.
Yeah.
And it's not, we're capping the discharge at like 50,000 gallons a day, but we put about 1.8 million through that plant a day.
And our plant capacity is 3 million, right?
The plant capacity is 3 million.
So if we're 2/3 of plant capacity and it's a heavy rain day, we should still be within limits to treat
Right,
water.
and we did include within the agreement a shutdown clause with Republic Services during rain events, because as we know, we have some issues during rain events. And they've agreed, they have the capacity to store 350,000. 338 to be exact. So they can store what we refer to as leachate, which is basically water coming off of the landfill. You can explain it better than I can, but that's the water we're talking about. So So if they have to shut down discharge to us because it's a direct discharge that they're discharging all the time, they're willing to do that during a rain event, say a 2-hour rain event that we just don't want to be taking in additional flows.
Well, let me ask a question. What would be the alternative if we don't do this? And why the 90-day? We're so confident that the mistake wasn't theirs.
I can answer that because they're ready to go. They're very ready to go. And even through Rick, he's recommended that we go full force. I would like the comfort of public and everybody else for us to assure that we can meet this for this 90-day trial. We are very comfortable and confident we can go, but I'd like to be extra sure. We've gone a year of operation, making sure that we had it where we needed to be. Knock on wood, we haven't had anything new occur on our own operations. We've addressed a lot of our I&I issue that we've had. We wanted a sense of comfort. That's why I wanted to have a temporary 90-day, review everything, have a sense of comfort. And if everything goes well, then we can bring that back to you for a formal agreement at that time.
Yeah, because there has been some issues on social media. People have talked about how brown their water is. I don't know whose fault is that, so that is an issue that we need to look at. I'm comfortable with 90 days. I just want to know why.
Right. No, it was more of a extra layer of care and to make sure we were doing our extra due diligence. We already feel comfortable in the data, but it's different from doing it. They feel comfortable, we feel comfortable from what we've seen, but we want to see it as a trial first, make sure we're comfortable before we move that forward.
And basically, this is why we're getting the new wastewater system, because it is not, our city is growing and we need more capability. If you, to our public, you got to go check it out, because once you see it for yourself, what it needs, then, but it is unacceptable for us to have any type of groundwater, because taxpayer pay, to have clean water. So that's a concern. I'm still listening.
Right. And we're talking about wastewater versus clean water.
Wastewater, yes.
Yeah. Right now, as it stands, I'm going to tell you why I'm opposed to this. Number one, there's not enough clarity here, even in 90 days. Are you suggesting that we're just continuing the existing contract that was signed in 2016 at a rate of 4 cents a gallon of water for the 50,000, representing $2,000 a month? Number one, same price, 2016. I'm opposed to that figure. If we're going to do something, that figure has to change. Number two, there is nothing in here that indicates that should we get tagged, and there's the additional letters here from TCEQ here, that, and we've already gotten tagged once last year. What was 200 and some odd $1,000, as I recall, that we paid the penalty? What
No,
was it?
for clarity, as long as you're asking me, for clarity, the current violation that we had was for multiple things at the treatment.
Right.
Some of it was for E. coli reporting, some of it was for chlorine operations, and some of it was for the copper excursions and also floor excursions. So tonight, I think what we're actually wanting from council, because this isn't necessarily an action item, is a consensus to move forward. We've been in negotiation. I've been working with these fine ladies and their senior manager for a few months and working out a lot of details. There will be a new agreement. Gus has drafted up a revised agreement. We've discussed the cost. We've discussed a slight increase at the 4 cents per gallon that we would enact. That's a lot of money. 4 cents a gallon is way higher than we charge commercial residents for outside city. It's extremely high. So we're charging an industrial rate fee that when I saw it, I thought it was absorbently high, but when I talked with Republic about sticking with that number, they're acceptable to that number, because right now their only answer is trucking this water. They got to get this water off plant. They have a pipeline connected to us. They have a relationship with the city that was established way back in 2016. Like I said, for many years, there was no issues whatsoever.
And
all of a sudden,
Mayor Pro Tem, like, if I can, point of clarity, You said it was $2,000. That would be per day.
This is not a monthly. I heard her say monthly over here.
50,000
That's
gallons
a
per
day.
A day.
times the 0.04 equates to $2,000 per day times the
And
30
that's what I
days
was
would
having
equate to.
trouble with because we had earned approximately $500,000 when we discussed this at our budget, when we stopped this. So,
Mhm.
so the adjustment on that side would have to occur in terms of the fee. And the last thing in my mind, I want, since this is a risk, I would ask that the city consider including an indemnity clause as well too, in the event that we get tagged. Once again, because we are under the microscope with TCEQ, and the letters are here for a variety of reasons. Let's just put it that way. Should we get tagged, that the company will reimburse us for those penalties.
Yes, and if you could look at page 8 of 8 on here, it does talk about if we're tagged in any component of that, what those fees are per day, per occurrence of how that gets calculated and equated. So on page 8 of 8, it discusses what those are. And that's something that we have discussed with the Republic, and they're very willing to address. We do understand, and on the point of the funds, the drafts of the formal agreement that we would bring back to you in 90 days, assuming that this would be approved tonight on a provisional trial, is something that we would obviously look at then. We're not looking at this from a money perspective right now. We're looking at more as safety being the concern. We do understand TCQ and the safety of our facilities and of our patrons is of utmost, which is why we're bringing this back as a trial. I can tell you Republic is ready to go on the formal agreement. They will gladly take this discount now, if you will, but we're not looking at it as a monetary thing. We're looking at it as a safety and a well-being, and to prove that we're able to take this on before we go into anything more formal.
Out of all of the investigative work that we've done to isolate the idea that the copper did not come from Republic, has any of that been reduced to writing? Has any of that been reduced to writing in some sort of formal report? Because there is definitely members of our community that are knowledgeable in what may or may not have happened as it relates to Republic's relationship with our city. And they're still concerned that perhaps Republic was responsible. We hear tonight that they were not, but we need that to be reduced to writing. We need our administration to provide a report for us as a council and as a community on the allegations that were made and on how we've done our due diligence to make sure that these allegations were not true, so that we can clear these folks of these allegations, so that we can alleviate some of the concerns that our community has with this deal. I think that would be the major stop to this deal, would be community concern. Doesn't sound like the community is so concerned tonight that we would be opposed to this, but it does sound like we need to have some sort of formal communication. And that would be my comment. Don't know that we are necessarily ready to vote tonight because of that concern, but I do know that we're ready to negotiate. And I do know that the council sounds like from tonight is open to moving forward quickly with this agreement, provided that we have the documentation in our possession as a council that we can share with our community, that this was not a result of anything that Republic may or may not have done during that time. That would be the only thing that I would think that would stop this, from my opinion.
Certainly.
So time frame, are we, please don't say that we are under some sort of time constraint.
We are not under time constraint. I'm sure Republic will be ready to start tomorrow. We've erred on the side of caution on this for a little over a year now. We want to make sure we get it right. It's a big decision, and one for us to make sure that we take into account safety as a paramount.
And one item I was going to bring up to your question, those documents I have not been able to find. and I've got utility billing right now helping to search for them, but there's nothing in my records, nothing in public work records that shows the sampling data, the sampling was high.
And those things need to be
Unfortunately, the
reduced to
records-
writing. There's
the
nothing
records-
in, right.
There's nothing there.
Well, we need that reduced to writing along with their documentation so that we can present a narrative to our community that whatever we've heard is in fact not true.
Or at least not provable, I guess.
Not, exactly, not provable, based on the assertions and the allegations that were made. Council, do we have any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Jim.
do. And as some people remind us in their districts, I'm the elected council person for that district there. Okay, and as I said, right now, I'm opposed, but with certain changes that would occur, I'm looking at it. First and foremost, I want to maintain the integrity period of any discharges that occur. And it is, as I said, what's in it to benefit the city of Lamarque and the residents of District B as well too. Two, here's another question. Having grown up in this area, gone out there many times, what's the useful life of that landfill?
60 years.
But it's already more than what, 40?
It was permanent in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah, so maybe we have another, what, 30 years left or something? What?
We have 60 years
From
left.
this year.
Oh, from this year, it's 60 years. Oh, so it was like 100-year permit or
A
what?
lot of landfills, once they settle and the trash compacts, you start getting some more of that life of site back. And please correct me if I'm wrong, because I am not the type of person, but
Okay,
It's permitted for airspace, not for lack of sight. So we're permitted for a certain amount of acres that were permitted to place trash. So whether, like Alex said, the trash settles, we get more airspace. We're only allowed to go to a certain height. And that's how we calculate our life.
and one of you mentioned that there was never any, I think, I heard the term pollutants there, things, but that was an open dump. We put everything in there. People were putting oil discharge, everything in that when it first opened.
When it opened in the 90s, our first landfill was a precinct title B. Our rest of our cells are, and I'm speaking jargon, not too sorry, but it's the lining of.
The line,
Yeah. So the rest of our cells that have been built where our trash goes has now a 60 mil liner, which is, if you think of like your trash bag liner, it's about the width of your pinky nail. It's a pretty thick liner that makes sure nothing gets out into the groundwater and groundwater comes back in.
And the groundwater is sampled as well.
Right, we do a semi-annual groundwater sample.
Here we
have
are.
a renewable energy plant on site too. I'll just throw that out there. Just to show
Sorry,
like a renewable energy plant is on site of the landfill.
We take
The methane,
yes, the methane, we extract the methane off of the decomposing gas and use it to, a third party has a gas plant on site and they sell it to, homes in the area. They fit it to a natural gas pipeline.
very good.
Here,
I'll come out and take a look at that.
You should.
Good.
Yeah, please.
here we are again, trying to augment our city budget with fees to alleviate and relieve property taxation. It is not, again, the most ideal relationship that we could have, but it certainly could be profitable for us, provided that we are assured that this will not harm our community. And so, council, I would entertain a motion that would either provide some contingencies, real contingencies for us to protect our community, or that will table this so that we can allow for Republic to continue to work with our administration to provide this report and to answer questions to build confidence.
I move that we table.
Is there a second? There is no discussion on the table. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Again, we are tabling this simply to allow you all to get those reports together so that we can have those reduced to writing in one report for our council and our community. we assure you that we will act next meeting on this 90-day possibility. But we definitely want to get questions answered for our community before we move forward. Very positive here tonight, very positive.
Absolutely. We'll definitely be in touch. We have a pretty quick turnaround for the next meeting, so we'll be in touch with you starting tomorrow.
This is a very, very positive outcome tonight for you guys.
Thank you for listening and taking the time. We appreciate it.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Thank y'all. Mhm. Item 10-4, items for the good of the order. Additional items to bring awareness to council and community as well as future agenda items. Item requests are accepted at this time. Caesar.
Yes, Mayor. Actually, the two items that we have to share are technically upcoming events. One of them we'll share with you here shortly on the screen. In the meantime, we'll be putting out some information on our seatbelt check that we'll be hosting here. Notice it's next one coming up is July 15th. It'll be over at the fire station, over at Central Station. So if you could please make note of that. We'll also put this out on our social media to make sure folks have the opportunity to get their seatbelts checked. We do err on the side of precaution, and in doing so, our fire department is getting this done. So next item that we have is our playground safety groundbreakings. We don't have a flyer for that yet. We're finalizing the details. We're putting that out shortly. They could take place as early as next week. We said we would get this done, get started probably closer to August when the kids got back in school. We might be starting a little bit early. So we're excited to share that, to want to let the community know that we'll be having some more groundbreakings here very soon. That concludes all we have, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for Caesar as it relates to his items for the good of the order? Guess that then segues to our items. Who wants to go first tonight?
Just point of clarification, it was a car seat check. I said seatbelt check.
No,
It's car seat check. I apologize. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for clarifying that. No one wants to go first, Mr. Ross. I believe seniority rules.
So July 15th, in connection with Galveston County Connects, we'll be doing a cleanup on Oak Street starting at 9 a.m. We are trying to get with our new
This Saturday or the first?
this Saturday.
This coming
July
Saturday.
15th.
Okay.
Getting with Chief Aragon with our new litter bus to make sure that we got people out there from 9 to noon. Trying to start our first cleanup in District D. I had the distinct pleasure and honor to meet with Private First Class Daniel Nelson's family tonight as they laid him to rest. Private Nelson was a Marque High School graduate. He passed away from cancer at the Soldier Recovery Unit in San Antonio on the 27th. And the family was very thankful that somebody came out and shook their hands and gave him the recognition as a Lamarck resident that he deserved. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Ross?
Okay, I just wanted to say, for District A, first of all, the Liberty,
Life and Liberty.
Life and Liberty was amazing. I had a great time there, and the fireworks, I think, were better than anybody else I saw. So I was real glad about that. I hope that becomes a standing tradition in our community. The other thing I wanted to mention, I think you and I talked about, is that the District A, we're really needing someone to make sure these ditches are clean. I know we didn't have everyone fully staffed and cold, but hopefully within another couple of weeks, we'll be fully staffed. I had some complaints. I want to make sure that we deal with those complaints. We know it's the summertime, but let's try to get those ditches mowed and get some extra help. I know we talked about that before. I just want to put on the record because people are asking me. So I want it to be known that I, as their representative, I am letting the city know that there are some things that we need to work on. We are planning a cleanup for District A along Lake Road first, and trying to get some cleaning baskets as well to teach about community cleanups, which is what we did when we were on Keep Lamarck Beautiful. So we want to make sure that we keep that. So we're in talks about doing that and a town hall meeting as well. The other thing I want to talk about, Gus, I know you and I talked about this before, about professional decorum. decorum, I'm sorry, and making sure that when people sign in, that they're not insulting for their name, even their name. There's a lot of cities now that are trying to have a community standards, right, of professionalism. And I think that we need to do that as well. I'm very concerned about what our children are seeing when they watch our YouTube channels and when they see how we behave in our city councils. And I just think it's time to set some parameters. We have it on our paperwork. I think that we need to really encourage that, right? As good Americans. And so I wanted to put that on the record as well. It is July. I'm a swimmer. I love to swim. Please watch your babies around the pool. We just had a 4-year-old to pass away at the Moody Gardens Hotel. So please watch your babies. Teach them how to swim if you can. But just be careful around water. I've been dreaming about it. I had a dream last week about a young boy passing away. And then to see that in the paper this weekend, I was like, wow. So I just want to say that let's have a good, safe summer. And I look forward to the next meeting. I think that's all I have.
Thank you. Michael?
Yes, sir. First off, I want to thank the Building and Standards Committee. I recently was able to help a resident with a remodel, and I appreciate everything that they've done to help the residents. They definitely deserve it. To the resident who contacted me today, I have not forgot about you. I have just not got the answers back that I was looking for. So hopefully tomorrow I can get back in contact with you and get you those answers. To the staff, I know you guys work your butts off and I do appreciate it. And I may be hard on the fire department and I respect everything that you guys do every day. Please don't take it personally. You guys do an amazing job. So thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing everyone soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Michael.
Mhm.
No, I don't have anything.
Very good. Thank you all for coming tonight. We want to remind you, July 15th, District D cleanup. What time is that, Mr. Ross? 9 to noon. 9 to noon. If you have any questions, I believe you can contact Councilmember Ross, who represents the city of Lamarque, as well as Galveston County Connects.
Well, that was through Ms. Salazar. I'm
Miss-
working in conjunction with her to make sure we're doing the cleanup in District D.
Very good. Councilmember Ross or Mrs. Madeline Salazar, who represents Galveston County Connects, this Saturday at 9 a.m. from 9 to 12. We also wanted to remind you July 24th, July 25th, July 27th, July 31st, and August 1st will be our budget workshop days. Those are days that the council will go over each department, each budget request, and go over the city manager's budget. This is the time that we as a community can offer input on the budget, from light bulbs to cleaning supplies to capital improvement acquisitions. It's your time. Certainly, we would love to have you here at Council Chambers, 10 a.m. to about 6 p.m. every one of those days. If not, certainly you can watch via YouTube or Channel 16 and contact your elected officials accordingly. But this is your time to have input on your tax dollars and how they are spent. There's nothing further. Caesar?
No, Mayor, thank you.
We will entertain a motion to, one more item. We are in desperate need of our mosquito fighting equipment, our mosquito truck. The council has approved this, I believe, 2 budget cycles ago. And our community members are clamoring for relief from the mosquitoes. And so I would love to hear an update on how we've acquired that equipment and how we are sending employees to train on that equipment. There's nothing further. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.